Okay. Let's see, it's 7:01 PM, and I am calling the April 9th, 2024 Planning Board meeting to order. We have several items on our agenda tonight, including 2 A&R requests, but I'll begin by taking roll. So when I call your name, would you please indicate that you're present? Pat Norton?
Present.
Jonathan Poor?
Jonathan Poor, present.
Bill Wheaton?
Bill Wheaton, present.
Emil Dahlquist?
Emil Dahlquist, present.
Beth Herr?
Present.
Rick Mitchell?
Present.
And Marnie Crouch. And I note for the record that Matt Hamill contacted me and Patrick and indicated that he wasn't going to be able to attend. So in the interest of efficiency, I'm going to call the A&R request first. So the first request is by Ellen Shane. Patrick, if you would read the public notice, I would appreciate that.
See, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81, the applicant Ellen R. Shane for owner Mary L. Reinhalter at 34 Miles River Road, Hamilton, Massachusetts, is seeking a Form A, approval not required, endorsement from the planning board from an alteration to lots 1A and 3A. The lots are located at 1 and 4 Reinhalter Lane, and also known as a portion of Assessor's Map 63, Lot 1. The property is within R1B zoning district.
Is the applicant here? Or on Zoom?
They appear not to be. We could switch to number 3.
Can you, Patrick, well, as long as we have the map in front of us, are they trying to further subdivide land in, Reinhalter Lane was constructed about 30 years ago. And are they trying to, the map we were given, I'm very unclear about, because there are lots along Miles River shown, Lot 4, is that being carved? I'm just, it's not clear to me what's happening in this map.
There are a lot of moving parts to this request.
Well, could I just interject, because like I was thoroughly confused, because the description referred to Lot 1A and 3A, and for the love of me, I couldn't find Lot 3A on the map. Now, admittedly, it's a very minuscule map, but I tried to blow it up on my computer screen. I still couldn't find it. And it's not that there's inherently a problem, but I can't for the life of me figure out what they're trying to do here, because I couldn't even find the lots. And then on the application, it refers to Lot 2A.
Right, I share Marnie's.
Absolute
Reflection.
confusion.
Is Reinhalter a private way or?
It's private.
It's private. So that can't give them frontage.
It could give them frontage.
Are there a private road?
Oh, sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, anyhow,
If that were the case, Bill, probably half of Hamilton would be considered inaccessible.
Okay.
right. Well, anyhow, something has to be clarified here, because it was thoroughly confusing. I just couldn't
Their
interpret the
surveyor
map.
committed to me mid-morning that he'd be here, but I can tell you that the other A&R party is represented with their surveyor.
Right, so we'll
Going on to
take
number
care of
3.
that. So we'll deal with the A&R request with respect to Villa Road.
Okay, I'll read that. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81, the applicants William J. Danziger and Janine Hicks of One Villa Road, Hamilton, Mass. Are seeking a Form A approval not required endorsement from the planning board for an addition of 10,546 square feet of land area of an abutting parcel. The subject land area to be added is located at 11 Villa Road and also known as a portion of map 71, lot 25. Registrar deed number 34288, one page 278. The property is within the R1B zoning district.
Good evening, Bob Griffin on behalf of Mr. Danziger and Ms. Hicks. This is a very simple conveyance from two abutting property owners, and it doesn't really affect zoning of either property. This is the Hamilton GIS map, and so we have 11 Villa Road, which is an approximately 14-acre parcel. It happens to have over 500 feet of frontage on Villa Road, over 500 feet of frontage on Tobacco Road. It's a very large parcel of land, and the house way up there. Mr. Danziger and Ms. Hicks live at 1 Villa Road here. This is an approximately 40,000 square feet of land, and they're proposing a building addition that requires a little bit more land, and they've been able to make arrangements with the owner of 11 Villa, Skytop Realty Trust, to convey parcel A, which is about 10,000 square feet of land. So looking at the A&R plan, here again is a large 14-acre parcel of land, number 11 Villa Road. Here's their property at number 1 Villa Road. And here's parcel A, the 10,000 square feet that will be conveyed from number 11 to number 1.
Okay. Did any board members have any questions with respect to this?
Is this part of Chaco currently paved or
It is, yes.
about to be paved?
No, it's paved, yep.
It's currently paved. Where is the paving going to start further?
I'm not exactly sure about the extent of the paving project, but it is paved adjacent to this
Okay.
parcel
Okay.
A.
Just curious.
So the final lot size then is 1.2 acres, is that correct?
After conveyance, that's correct.
Okay.
Well, if no one has any further questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the A&R for Villa Road.
I make a motion to approve the A&R for Willow Road?
Villa,
Villa Road.
1 Villa Road.
1 Villa Road.
Do I have a second?
Second?
So when I call your name, please indicate whether you assent. Pat Norton,
Pat Norton, aye.
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, aye.
Bill Wheaton,
Bill Wheaton, aye.
Emil Dahlquist,
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Beth Herr,
Aye.
Rick Mitchell,
Aye.
and Marnie Crouch, aye.
Great, thank you all very much, and good evening.
Thank you. But this reminds me, and I think maybe, Jonathan, you mentioned this, it might be helpful with our Form A if we added a section for a narrative about what's being contemplated here.
Yep.
And if there's any references, to, Lot A is also the same as Lot 25, just a little more clarity
Sure.
when we're looking at these very small
It would
maps.
be essentially equivalent, the narrative would be equivalent to what was just presented.
Exactly, and it would tie the public notice to the A&R request, because right now, the public notice has one set of informative materials, and the A&R request doesn't duplicate that exactly.
And it might want to live in the bylaw or the regulations as well as the form.
The problem
Right.
with A&Rs, or one of the many, is the fact that an applicant can come right before the meeting And very often, they don't send information that allows you to really understand it until they end up in front of you. State law allows them to bring these things to us when the meeting opens. And I try to get people educated on getting us their information ahead of time. This A&R from Reinhalter didn't come to us until it was after hours on Friday.
But even if you're sitting at the table here waiting for something to happen, you can read the narrative and
Right.
study the map. So it would be a tremendous help.
Right. Yeah,
So
I
it's-
can't disagree, and these things often perplex me too, because it's not clear very often what they're attempting to do and how they're taking tab M from parcel Z.
Right. So there's no actual public notice required?
No. I try to get as much information as I can from these things, and you'll see that some of them are more complete than others, but not always.
It'd be very easy to add it to the form, there's plenty of room, because right now, all it asks for is the location and description of the property. It doesn't ask for what the change is.
Right. And it's not as if there's a problem, it's just it would
It's just lack of.
expedite the
Yeah,
whole
it's lack of clear
process.
communication in the
Yeah,
form, that's all.
right. Okay, so we can turn to our deliberations with respect to the athletic fields improvement project. And as I said in my email where I conveyed the draft of the decision, that I would take a recess for as long as necessary to enable you all to study the draft that has been circulated. So please take your time, and once you've kind of assessed what's going on and can understand it, we can talk about it.
We have two here. We have the site plan, and then we have the stormwater.
They were dealt with simultaneously. I mean, the hearings were really concurrent with respect to both to some extent. So,
Can I get a copy of this?
Well,
don't
you're,
think
you're kind of mixing apples and bananas here, if you're trying, the way I'm reading it, because it's got the same language in the site plan as it does in the stormwater. So I'm kind of confused.
well, there are different findings with respect to the site plan and the stormwater as you go on. So why don't you read the whole thing first, and then if you still have a problem or need clarification, we can handle that. Which do you need? You should have received,
So this is the main packet, and then this is the other one I got. Am I supposed to have three things or two?
let me look at this one.
You got two items there. One was the main package, and then the additional one that
Okay,
says
sorry, and here,
decision
this is, I got it.
is the
Sorry, Marnie,
decision
I got it right here.
as proposed.
No, but there's one that Patrick circulated that I amended, because the draft that Patrick circulated contained the conditions that we dealt with on March 26th. And at the
Got it.
conclusion of that hearing, I said that I would amend those
Got it.
conditions
Yep.
to reflect our discussions. So you have to read the draft that I sent at about 3 o'clock.
And that's this one that says site plan review application and stormwater management application.
One right here.
Yes.
The separate one. That's the one.
Yes.
That's Marnie.
Yes.
This is Marnie.
So, Patrick sent one before.
Right.
Got it, yeah, that's in this packet.
And that's
Got it.
superseded, because the one that Patrick sent contained the conditions that we already discussed and amended. So,
Okay, so
so you need to look at the one that I sent you.
it's this one.
Yeah,
it's-
This is the separate one, yes.
Patrick's does not have page numbers, mine does.
Got it.
So if you have, you need to look at the one that has page numbers.
Okay. So Marty, a clarification, it looks like at the top of page 5,
Could we just wait until everyone's gone through it, and then we
but
can?
I'm trying to read it, so I'm seeking a clarification. Top of page 5, does that end the decision for the stormwater management bylaw?
Yeah,
Oh, you want, yeah.
And then planning board conditions starts site plan review?
no. Planning board, there's the decision, that's section 3, and then the conditions, section 4.
So they apply to both stormwater and site plan review?
No, there's findings of fact. 1 is site plan review, 2 is stormwater management. So there's a finding of fact, site plan review is number 1, stormwater management is 2, and B is the vote. And then it just goes on to the conditions.
I'm not sure I've,
You might be in the wrong one. Are you looking at one
Oh,
with
yeah.
page numbers?
Yeah, so here is what she's saying. It makes me feel good that I didn't get the other stuff. Okay, so here's the site,
yeah, I
and
got
then
that.
here's the storm management.
Right,
So those two.
then it followed by vote,
Right.
okay. Is that the end of the stormwater
Yeah,
section?
yeah,
Okay, that was my question. So
Right.
what follows is the site plan review conditions.
no, the conditions are really apply to both. I didn't differentiate the conditions as to one or the other. But I
So
think
they-
if you were to look at them, most of the conditions, except with respect to perhaps light and noise, all apply to stormwater. too bad for them.
Let me show you.
Wow, we can go over them.
That's some detail. Usually makes up words you don't want to use. But check.
So Marnie, am I right in saying that the agreement that Superintendent Tracy made at the town meeting to have escrow accounts,
One.
he rescinds that through the letter of his attorney, Stephen Mattis, who says, no, we don't need to do that because that's interfering with the financing of the school system.
I don't think it's
So, I
something,
mean, and that letter is dated after the town meeting.
right, but he may not have been aware of what was said at town meeting.
The escrow account shouldn't be something we require because a maintenance plan and their commitment to support it is required
No,
by the
there's-
Massachusetts
are you
Stormwater
re-
Handbook.
There's no escrow account anymore with respect to the maintenance plan. There's only an escrow account with respect to the removal of the turf.
Right.
Which I consider maintenance. No one can say that the removal of turf
Okay,
is.
all I can say is,
Marnie, if you want involvement in the board, I think you should let everyone
Okay,
speak.
all right, but I
'Cause I know
was
you
just-
put a significant amount of time and effort into this, so you probably have a personal
no, I just,
attachment to the.
did you read
Yeah.
the footnote?
Yeah, but I consider the removal of turf and the processing of that turf part of maintaining, it's part of maintenance. The field has a lifetime. The lifetime could be 8 years, could be 10 years, could be 15 years, could be 20 years. It could be, depending on how well you maintain it. Systems have a life based on how well you maintain them. And you or I or nobody else in this room has experience doing that. So we can't impose a condition as part of something that's considered maintenance. It's the removal of the turf and the establishment of the turf and the maintenance of the turf is all the same thing.
Well, they're two different things. Maintenance is an ongoing process to maintain something in a particular condition. The removal process is, we're finished taking it out.
You're talking to somebody who, Emil, maintenance and removal and dealing with something's lifespan is part of maintenance and operation. It's part of maintenance and operation. It's not a unique condition. If something were to fail during the course of the normal maintenance, you'd have to replace the turf, right?
Right.
Not necessarily just associated with the end of life, but if there was a failure of any one of the components or whatever they developed as part of the system, they may have to remove it to deal with that, and that's
Yeah.
maintenance.
Yeah.
All this, everything that we're talking about here is maintenance.
Yeah.
And they're required. The town and the board, the schools are all required to fund that maintenance.
Right, and that's why there's, well, I'm going to bite my tongue. I think that the cost of the removal of the synthetic turf is extraordinary. And I think that given what Superintendent Tracy said at town meeting in front of the hundreds of people that were there, should be binding. He
So
made a
consider this
representation,
yeah.
and I think that when you make a representation in that type of forum, you can't backtrack.
So consider a membrane roof. A membrane roof has PFAS in it. It has a lifespan. You maintain that over the course of its, you would not be imposing the same condition if they were talking about putting a membrane roof on a structure. I think we're just taking this a bit, I won't agree to impose a condition, myself personally, on something I consider to be maintenance. And
Well-
developing an additional escrow to deal with something that may or may not happen, that may happen 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 30, who knows when. There's nothing that you can fund to understand what that's gonna be now anyways. So it's gonna be part of
Right.
maintenance it's gonna get continually assessed every couple of years,
Right,
based on the performance of the system.
right. So I will just make two comments. We can vote on that condition. And number two, I think that everything I have read says that the expected lifetime of a synthetic turf field is 8 to 10 years. You might get a few more years. You will never get 20. So that's unheard of. And I can show you my file, this thick. I have never read that. So why don't we talk about how we want to approach these things? Because I did take into account the letter from Merrick O'Connell. So there were things that I removed. So instead of requiring a budget for the operation and maintenance, I recommended that there be a budget for operation and maintenance. Instead of requiring private well testing, I strongly recommended that the school district test 4 wells for its own benefit, because it would have, if there were to be any type of contamination of those wells, without baseline data, those owners of those wells could look to the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District and say, it's on you. And that would engender litigation, potential remediation, and a lot of problems. But if you have the baseline data, you're protected. So I would recommend that you do that. If you choose not to, it's your risk assessment, not mine. I would recommend it, and I don't know if the planning board would want to include that language as well. So I don't know how you all feel, whether you want to go through this decision page by page, and then go through each condition one by one and vote on it. I know that Merrick O'Connell had some questions about the soils and this and that, and so anything with respect to the actual civil engineering and that, the soils, I did not change. I mean, the standard construction period, pollution prevention plan, the tennis court infiltration trench, these were all things that the peer reviewer recommended, and I left it at that. With respect to the light and noise, you can see what I wrote, and you know.
I think that's a clever out for them, which is if they, well, that really goes to the heart of whether or not we can use site plan review. And if there was no private use of the facilities, then we would not have authority to use site plan review under it. It's what you seem to be implying is that it's the fact that they're going to be used frequently and particularly off hours by other people who are not part of the student body.
Right.
That gives us a little leverage in terms of applying site plan review.
Exactly.
So if they, and your inference is that if they wanted to forgo those uses and make the facilities 100% student body, then we would not have grounds to use site plan review. But since they do want to do that, I suspect they'll be making some money off of it.
Right.
Then we do have grounds for site plan review.
Well, I think at that point, they should then be a good neighbor and turn to the abutters
Right.
and put some reasonable conditions on it. So for
Right, no,
example,
I understand, I mean,
well, just to be clear,
once
for
you,
Mr. Tracy.
once you make the case that we have, site plan review authority, because they're not just using it for students, then I think everything else is very reasonable. You want to come to as reasonable a resolution of light and pollution as you can. But so that part of it's clear. And then, in terms of our abilities under stormwater management, you seem to have the cases down, which are not mentioned in the attorney's letter at all, on page 3.
On page one.
So I have a question. So I'm wondering why we're mixing, as I said at the beginning, stormwater management with lighting.
No, and you're right. So the minute you said that, it occurred to me that what needed to be done is we need to separate out the conditions
Yeah.
by site plan review.
Right.
So,
Yes, that's
so with
I
respect.
support that.
yes, that's a better way of doing it.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
it was something, believe me, this was on me. I mean, I didn't have the benefit of a colleague to sort through all this stuff. So with respect to site plan review, we would put section D, and then under stormwater management, it would be A, B, C,
Right.
Would it be useful
B,
to
F, and G.
quickly go through and play which of these things is not like the other, and separate them into buckets?
Because we'll accomplish two goals at once. We'll determine what language you want and where it goes.
Yes.
Well, does
So
that-
I suggest that be a first step.
So why don't we start with soils?
So basically break, go ahead.
Could I just interrupt? Before we even get to the conditions, did people have any problems with the first 4.5 pages?
I did. I think I'm used to a decision including findings and conditions, and that's it. I think the information on the first 4.5 pages is interesting history and maybe good information for this board to have as reference in the future for whatever reason, but I don't find it necessary or appropriate to put in a decision document. I've never seen one with the same level of background, and I don't agree with some of the phrases being used or wording that is somewhat subjective. So I don't see a use for it in the decision at all. It doesn't support or, it doesn't provide any useful information as part of the decision.
Well, usually when you draft a decision, you give a background, and based on that background, you formulate your findings of fact. You just don't state your findings of fact without
The background I'm used to
Indicating-
is a history of
what was
who's
filed.
submitted,
Right.
things that are filed, and the hearing started on this date and it finished on this date. But
Right.
there's a lot of other stuff here that's not appropriate for a decision.
I would agree that some of the sections could come out of him, and as well as later sections.
Well, which do we want to do first? Do you want to separate the conditions into buckets, or do you want to go through the first 4 pages?
Well, I'd like to start with the
Start from the start.
conditions.
With the conditions?
Yeah,
I think
and
that's
then we can
easier.
come- then
I
we
think
can
it's
come
easier.
back to the
Yeah,
introduction.
and it may inform the first 4 pages, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. Anybody have any objection to starting with conditions?
No, I think we've
Sounds good.
agreed to that.
Okay.
With the understanding we're going to break them out.
Okay, so soils is,
Before we start, since they've invoked the Dover Amendment, just understand, they can choose to ignore these. So that should be a context
They
within
can-
which, let me finish, within which we are making the decisions and the text that we choose to select. We should be careful about the words we use and use those words and the authority that's vested in us carefully so that it's clear where we are not, clear that we're staying within the bounds of our authority, Because if we go to an extreme, they're just gonna say, we're invoking the Dover Amendment, and we're going to ignore these, which they can.
Okay, here's the fundamental question. They can ignore, well, and I don't know legally in a decision whether they can ignore conditions without an appeal, but be that as it may.
Well, just
With
one-
respect to stormwater management.
No,
you
that I get.
suggest- Okay, so the only conditions with respect to site plan review are with respect to light and noise.
So they have indicated by their attorney's letter that they don't agree with those, and that they believe that the Dover Amendment, they believe those are excessive.
Well, and if you read.
And according to their citation, and according to yours as well in here, that they only apply to the protection of, what's the word I want? Wetlands.
Right, but having said that, Gale Associates agreed to have the lighting be dark sky
No,
compliant.
no, I'm talking about soils now. Let's stick with
Oh,
what we
well, the
stuck.
soils are related to stormwater management.
You were talking about.
Yeah, are you talking about
Site plan.
site plan, soils are not site plan review?
No,
This is why this is confusing, so
All right, so let's
Why
go
don't we do the
through-
categories
Why don't we
first?
do
We're
the
trying to
buckets?
figure-
Why don't we do the buckets first?
Yes.
So that everything is clear.
Yep.
okay, fine.
okay, site plan review, light and noise. Let's go there, section D.
Okay, well, let's find that.
It's on page 6,
Page 6.
light and noise.
Okay, so that's.
That is the one and only thing that is listed under site plan review. Am I correct, Marty?
Yes,
Everything else, which would be A, B,
B, C,
C, E,
F and G,
and F,
and G
and G
are related to stormwater.
are related to stormwater management.
I still don't like light and noise, item number 8. I mean, two towns voted to approve $15 million to install the fields, and we're gonna leave it up to 3 or 4 abutters to determine when they can use them.
Did you read the paragraph that
Yeah.
starts with respect to the conditions
Did.
8 and 10 and to the,
It's just
That
an
takes care of
unnecessary
that.
hurdle, I think. I did read it. I'm expressing that it's an unnecessary hurdle, and I think that the hours of operation that were outlined are appropriate.
well, if
my
they're
opinion.
renting the field to pickleball players at 7 o'clock on a Saturday evening in the middle of the summer, that's not something that would be subject to the Dover Amendment. The Dover Amendment
I
applies to
understand,
religious and
but I'm
educational.
not asking to get talked out of my opinion. I understand the issue. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Okay,
No, but yet, if you look at it in perhaps a different way, there's no condition here that says that you can't turn the lights on in the field. The condition is that it's not a school activity to light the neighbor's yard.
They're not lighting.
No,
the
I mean,
field.
it's
They're lighting the field.
it's,
We've already got
The
the
lighting
lighting.
no, this is about, putting on the protective shields on the lights.
I'm fine
yeah.
with the protective
No, it's
shields.
really, it's not. It's about usage.
It's about usage.
Well,
It's about
that
usage.
was,
Because they're
Reasonable
going to put all of those protections on. They're not coming back and doing them. They're gonna do it
yeah, you have to do it
at the
time.
beginning. They don't wanna expend time and money coming back and retrofitting, so they understand that.
We're asking them to do the light cutoff. We're asking to, design an appropriate announcement system. We're asking to put in, sound attenuation around the courts. I think all those things are the mitigating factors to allowing the appropriate use, which is, I think, the hours they've outlined, which is very much in line. The assistant superintendent had reached out to the adjacent towns I mentioned before, and it's almost exactly in line with the hours of operation for Ipswich, for Beverly, for all these other adjacent towns. It's the same hours of operation. They didn't make it up on their own.
I think the important thing is
And
context.
if it's for an educational use, they absolutely
All
get to
these
do
other
that.
fields allow the community to use them, they allow other schools to use, what do you think we're doing right now for this summer? We're using other, if that benefit wasn't available to the students at Hamilton Wenham School, to use other fields in different schools, then they wouldn't be playing, they'd be shut down. Like, think about it that way. Think about it
But
like
this
what's
isn't the
available for kids
students.
to use.
This isn't the students we're talking about. These are adults who are,
Could be the football field that allows Ipswich to play on it because their field. for
no, I'm
whatever
not
reason.
talking about, well, it's,
That's other, you can't
I'm
guess what
talking
they're gonna use
about
it for.
non-students. Well, they know what they use it for, especially if they're making money on it.
I think we're just taking the polar worst-case scenario approach at looking at, it's not gonna be a,
Well, this is,
it's not gonna be a revenue-generating, it's not like the Manchester Athletic Club or something like that. It's, they're not going out to market, you're not gonna see an advertisement on Facebook for, football fields available for adult flag football use and,
I think
it's
it's
not gonna
the-
be on the,
I think it's the pickleball that's
it's
the
not gonna be on the
problem.
radio or.
It's the pickleball that's the
We're
problem.
putting sound attenuation on the courts. We're using cut-off lights. We're using all the things that you would do to allow the beneficial use of a amenity that the town voted to put in. I mean, I guess, there's not a lot of places like this around for the community to use. So I think we pay to install it. We allow it to get used.
I am guessing, not being a lawyer, that this is something that lawyers could really have a fun time with. Whether our, insistence in some way in getting involved in the operation of the school, whether it's for the students or whether it's for other community organizations, I can see putting all the limits and guidelines on fences and noise barriers and lighting and so on. But when we start to say what the hours of operation can be, I'm just betting some lawyers would have fun with that.
Well, really,
I think that's something that, they could really get their teeth into and fight about.
Well, I agree with that, but I'm just thinking that if you have a bunch of 55-year-olds playing pickleball at 7:30 at night on a Saturday night when you're trying to have a cocktail party, I mean, I'm just thinking that could we just be good neighbors here? And that was kind of, did I say that we were gonna limit the hours? I said, essentially, try and work this out so that it's not a real burden on the people in the vicinity.
How about we recommend it and not require it?
That's what I was thinking, the
So-
word recommend
We
too.
recommend,
Instead of shall,
yeah,
recommend that they negotiate, and then you probably would need to take out the written request if they can't come to an agreement. But you could write recommend, we recommend that they negotiate.
I mean, if you read the final paragraph on 6, it pretty much says, you can't get out of this unless you can't get out of any of these requirements unless you do not use the facility explicitly for student use.
Right.
And I think that's something the lawyers would like to chew on a bit.
well, it's interesting because if you read the intent of this, it only relates to pickleball.
In terms of noise?
Yeah, I mean, read the last two paragraph, last two sentences. It says, thus, if the requirement of the Dover Amendment that the use of for educational purposes, wait a minute. Intends to rent the athletic fields to non-students or non-student groups or entities and permit non-student groups, entities to use its athletic fields, there is no educational purpose for the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District students. Okay, that's a statement. Then it goes on to say, those non-student groups or entities may not use the lighting system or create undue noise from pickleball. That's the only thing it says. So, I mean, now this is really put in place for Ann Giroux because Ann Giroux is the closest person to the pickleball fields, and she's the one that insisted upon it.
I mean, I'm sure there's developing
No,
case
let's
law
let's
on
read it.
pickleball
No,
in
no.
other situations
No, no,
where it's
let- no,
creates
no,
noise.
let's read it as the way it says. It only says pickleball. So it's a deft legal maneuver to try and get around the Dover amendment, but then it kind of just goes, well, I'm only doing this for pickleball.
I think
Well,
we
pickleball's
removed,
the most obnoxious, from
It's
what
the
I
loudest,
understand.
I think.
It's loud and obnoxious
That's why they
and
did the sound
drives-
attenuation on 3 sides.
I think we removed the last paragraph, recommend reasonable operations get negotiated, and leave it at that. Because
So are you saying
there's-
for 8 and 10, we put recommend instead of shall?
recommend instead of shall, and I think we eliminate telling them how to provide.
We would
some-
eliminate the last paragraph altogether, and then
With
make
respect
make
to
paragraphs 7, 8, 9, 10,
No, just 8 and
8
10.
and 10,
8 and 10.
recommend.
We
Recommend.
recommend, yeah.
But I wouldn't tell them how to construct the sound mitigation. I would say that they provide sound mitigation. I wouldn't say how to do it in number 9.
Remember, the word shall is different than that's a legal requirement.
Right, that's why.
Since they
we
say
did
shall, that's legally enforceable word.
And number 9 was the peer reviewer.
But there are options to how you do it, and this is one. I don't think it's appropriate. I understand they
Well,
were saying.
I
that,
guess that's the least expensive way to do it. Are you suggesting that there's other less expensive ways to do it?
but Not necessarily, but.
I
those-
don't think
they
Gale
may choose-
Associates objected to this.
They did or they did not?
I don't think they did.
So
And I
what are we
just-
recommending, amending or removing?
Okay, in 8 and 10, we're putting Hamilton Wenham Regional School District and Direct
Just loaded one
Butters
with PFAS in it.
that we recommend that they work together to come up with cutoff times. And then I think you have to eliminate the planning board shall intervene with a written request.
Yes, absolutely. Because any abutter, an abutter's going to complain immediately. And then we're just,
Right.
And then we
it's
don't
not-
really want to get in the middle of this, but we are in the middle of it.
Well, then it's not recommending, because recommending is for them to figure it out. And then if they want to come to us, then we could make a decision if we're gonna get, but I think we're recommending, we're not.
Or we could just say the planning board is willing to assist.
Bill Wheaton is willing to assist negotiations.
For yourself.
I think you're either in or you're out. You're in or you're
Right.
out, so, and this suggests out.
Do we need to vote on this, or do we have a consensus?
I think we have a
I think,
consensus.
yeah, my view would be we should probably wipe out the last paragraph and then somehow make the other 2 paragraphs, 8 and 10, a little more of, we suggest, recommend, whatever.
You
Yep.
could say, we
And that would
recommend,
be the extent of our site plan review.
we recommend Hamilton Wenham School
I-
District and abutters.
Negotiate a reasonable operational times and
Thank you.
schedule.
Yeah,
That's
negotiate,
what we
yeah,
need.
yeah, good, okay.
So we
And
start with we
remove
recommend.
the intervene part, the last sentence.
Yeah, correct, we took those out. Is that other, yeah.
All right. So now we go to the other ones. It's all clear. Soils,
So we're done
Inf-
with
That's-
noise, light and noise, right?
Right.
right, so everything else is
Stormwater management.
stormwater management.
So who has a problem with soils?
Sometimes a condition is imposed on the site plan review to adhere to the long-term maintenance and operation as outlined in the stormwater bylaw. As part of them.
As part of site plan review?
I'm not recommending we do that, I just am saying that I've seen there are condition imposed on site plan reviews to say that the applicant will follow the outline of the long-term operation and maintenance plan as defined as part of the stormwater plan that they establish, which Gale's outlined, Gale Associates outlined a long-term, it's a requirement of the handbook. It's kind of redundant because The stormwater bylaw has it, but
Right.
it's sometimes referenced in site plan.
So that.
So you're skipping ahead to E, though. Marnie was asking about A, soils.
Well, I thought that was the only one related, the only condition we were considering for site plan.
He was just saying if there were any other site plan review
Is that the end
items.
of the conditions for site plan?
Yes.
Yeah. like,
Marnie, condition F.
Could we just go through A?
Yeah, let's
Let's go through A. Soils, this was something straight from Tom Houston.
Yeah,
Standards in construction period, pollution prevention and erosion and sedimentation control.
Yeah.
Right from Tom Houston.
great.
Same with the tennis court infiltration trench.
Can I, just, and it could be my faulty memory, I thought one of our prior conversations was we got to an agreement where they would do the first 2 or 3, and then if soil conditions looked like they were shifting, they would then voluntarily do the additional.
No, what the agreement was that they didn't have to do it in advance of construction.
Oh, okay.
Once the construction started, they were going to do
It
it.
says prior to construction.
Well, it still would be part of construction.
But it's when construction was initiated. They didn't have to do it and then come back.
Post-design prior to construction.
Right, so initially, they would have had to have done it and then come back, I guess, to the, I don't know to who. But they can, they can get all their equipment ready and do it
Okay.
just prior to actually tearing the
Yeah, I
whole
thought that was
thing up.
really a good fix. You don't want them having a very unpleasant surprise when they've already, committed to already started digging.
All right.
Okay, operations and maintenance plan.
Okay. Eleven is fine with me, except when we get to the second paragraph, I'd like to cut off, just leave it and end it where the budget should include an itemization of the labor and material costs of maintaining the synthetic turf, period. We don't need that will be exposed to leaf litter, animal waste, and other sources of bacterial contamination that can be resolved by UV light. I mean, really?
Well, actually, when you say really, you know why I put that in?
No.
Because Kathleen Hervel said that.
Who?
Kathleen Hervel of Gale Associates, she said that. I asked her about that, and she said, we're going to rely on UV light.
Okay.
I don't agree to impose a performance guarantee. I think I've mentioned before that there's already one required in our current bylaw.
Right, now we're making it explicit, and you need to come up with some kind of amount for that performance guarantee. It's not just like,
Yeah, but that's outlined, I don't know where 1.5 million comes from, but it's outlined in the bylaw what that value should represent.
no, it's not.
It's the cost of the installation of the stormwater management system.
Right, so I don't know what that is, so if you look at,
Right, so we can't
but,
tell them it's $1.5 million.
no. You know, Pat, you need to read the footnotes. So I basically said, give us another number and we'll put that in.
But we're trying to I would just say that it's already, we don't have to define what the number is as a condition. It's already a requirement of the bylaw.
So should we refer to the bylaw, is that what you're saying?
I say the
I already
performance.
did.
I don't believe we need to establish what the number is. It's a requirement that they provide a performance guarantee at the cost of the installation of the stormwater management system. That is it. And
So
it's
you
not
would-
gonna be for some months and months and months until they understand what the cost of the installation of that system will be.
So you would go acceptable security to ensure the construction of the stormwater systems are completed in accordance with the stormwater management
I didn't
permit.
even think we have to note it, because it's already a requirement in the stormwater bylaw. There's no condition
Well, it's-
we're
it-
imposing.
It's
It's saying follow the rules.
It's a throwaway.
Yeah, all right.
So,
I'm gonna throw away, it's fine. But I agree that the next couple of paragraphs are,
so
relevant to the condition.
You could keep if you want to keep the UV light, that's fine, but then I'm gonna say the last sentence just does not need to be there. The budget should be structured to permit a direct comparison of the costs associated with the maintenance of turf and natural grass fields. Who
That's-
cares?
That's not.
Yeah,
that's not
that whole paragraph is kind of like, if you're still in doubt and it's an open question, then sure, we'd like to look at the comparison between the two, but
But that was settled.
that was sort of settled at the town meeting, right? It's like,
These paragraphs should be removed, and the condition 11 should just be specific to saying
and
following.
I would
You
agree,
know,
I would agree.
actually, you're wrong, because what do we want? Do we want a surety bond? Do we want an irrevocable letter of credit, cash, or something else? I mean, we have to determine what provides the security
For what? I'm sorry.
for the performance guarantee.
Under
Let's
number 11.
Under number 11, I mean, it's the planning board that determines what. They're given alternatives. You don't just say they'll do, I mean, you know, contractually, you have to build in some guardrails here. If everybody just said, oh,
Yeah,
they'll
but come
perform
on,
their contract, there would never be a breach of
Right,
contract.
okay, but this is, again, this is overreach. They got a $15 million appropriation. Really? Do you think, and it's a bond that's been approved, and it's gonna be floated if it hasn't already been floated? Do you really think that they're gonna go, well, we're not gonna do the stormwater management system, we're gonna shortcut it? If it's already in the stormwater management statute, I agree. You're picking the budget number out of there. I mean, it's already required of them.
Right, but it's not, it's required, but who gets to choose the amount? I mean, shouldn't we know the amount and what the surety is?
Amount's been chosen, as outlined in the bylaw. It's the cost of the installation of the system. And
Right, but
the cost of the
wouldn't you-
installation of the system is
They
relevant
don't
to
know
the
that yet.
complexity of the job, and they have yet to engage the contractor who's been awarded the scope to install that system.
That's why if we make it more general and don't put that number in.
Yeah, I think you just go.
It's a general to say. per the
Security
bylaw,
to
at
ensure
the
the
cost
construction of the
installation
stormwater system.
Well, wouldn't you like to know what that cost was, and wouldn't you like to
Eventually.
know
No,
what
It's none
surety?
of our fucking business. I mean,
Eventually.
really?
Eventually, it'd be interesting information, but it's a requirement to
Excuse my
provide a bond
French.
for the amount. And it's not up to me whether or not it's $1 million, it's $500,000. It's the scope of the system that determines the level of investment required.
Who is the beneficiary of this performance guarantee? Who's the beneficiary of it?
I don't know.
I think it's the town.
Uh,
I think
Or the school district.
it's not the school district, it's the town. The
So what's your
town is the
point?
beneficiary
So I have a
of this.
question,
But I don't
Pat.
understand the point.
I've got a question.
point
At the
is-
end of the construction of a stormwater management, is it inspected to make sure that it's been built to spec?
Yeah, inspected, it's up, what's interesting is, it's not the Conservation Commission who's the authority in this town, it's us. And somebody has gotta go out there and inspect it periodically after a storm event, or whatever it is, but that's the expectation. And whether it's a Conservation Commission that will do it, because they've actually put some conditions in their own finding, which I found weird.
No, that wasn't my
Says it-
question. My question is relevant to the 1.5 million. We're talking about construction, not maintenance.
No, it's construction, establishing the system.
Right.
Yeah.
So who establishes, once it's completed, that it has been built to spec?
That will be the building
Building inspector.
Okay,
building inspector and the civil engineer has to sign, the Gale Associates civil engineer designed the system, has to sign an affidavit that was installed per his design.
okay.
Yes, that would take care of the first paragraph. Yes, that would take care of the first paragraph.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That our consultant and the town inspector go out there and say that
Our consultant, but their engineer,
their engineers say that it was built.
and
So is there a cost submitted then at the beginning of, before you draw a permit?
not
But
usually,
where does the cost come from then?
it's an expectation of the contractor to carry it. There's no visibility given to it as a requirement.
Well, why wouldn't you want it as a condition and to make it visible?
You could have a condition to say, make it visible the cost of the installation of the stormwater management system.
If that's the number you need for the performance.
But it's
Yeah,
not a,
guarantee.
it's a condition of what then? A condition to proceed with construction, a condition to obtain,
Well, Marty, you're saying
Occupancy permit?
the performance
It's a
guarantee.
performance guarantee. If it
requirement
fails,
of-
you want that surety.
yeah.
So we
It's
need to
not,
know.
it's not, we need to know what it
need
is,
to know
because
what
if
it
it
is.
fails, then the surety covers the cost of correcting the
That's why you put
problem.
a condition in there, so somebody is checking on this, you know, as a.
Yeah, you could condition every.
Oh, trust but verify.
But you're ignoring reality. It's been bonded. It's approved. This isn't like you're a homeowner or a commercial enterprise that you're approving, that you want to be sure that they actually construct the stormwater system that has been approved. This has been approved. We've gone to 2 town meetings trying to stop it, or 1 town meeting to stop it, and it didn't happen. So it's gonna happen. It's
Yeah.
not like, it's not gonna happen. It's not like it's a commercial enterprise that's gonna, try and figure out, well, we promised to do this, but we haven't got financing, and we've gotta get, we gotta line up the tenants.
Yeah,
we've
but
gotta line
suppose
up
they're in the,
banks.
suppose they're in the middle of this, and they discover that the sound insulation is more expensive than they thought, and the pits are turning out to be more expensive, and so they say, all right, let's only dig 3 pits, and we'll only put sound insulation around half of the tennis courts. I'm just saying, that's why you have a surety bond, so that somebody walks in and says, no, you agreed to do the following, and we have your bond to ensure that it's done.
Usually a condition,
This is stormwater management, though, not site plan review.
there's not a condition to provide the bond, usually. There's a condition to do the thing.
Right.
And if, at the end of the project, when they go for occupancy, they haven't done the thing, then you ask for that bond, and you hold the occupancy permit.
Right, okay, so let's take the case of the drainage system underneath. Somebody goes in and they find it's really expensive, so they make the pipes 4 inches instead of 6 inches, or they do some other things, and you go and inspect afterwards, you say, no, this was not built the way we originally envisaged the drainage system.
So they
to be
got no
built.
occupancy permit. That means they can't use it.
Which means they have to fix it, and the bond is what sometimes you ask for as a promise to fix the thing. So it's not,
The engineer of record couldn't sign the affidavit
Could I
either.
just
Yeah,
read
I can sign
the
that.
provision of
Yeah.
our stormwater management bylaw? The permit authority, that's us, may require the applicant to post before the start of land disturbance activity a surety bond, irrevocable letter of credit, cash, or other acceptable security as performance guaranteed to be in an amount deemed sufficient by the permit authority to ensure that the work will be completed in accordance with the permit. So we
Right, then we certainly have the authority to ask to
we
put
want to
that
know what
paragraph in.
the amount is,
That's
and in the footnote, it's
okay.
up to the, it's,
the bond, though, is related, it's not just a made-up number, it's related to the cost of the installation of the
right,
system.
and that's why.
You have to
I-
guess.
I
mean-
did a guesstimate, but I put a footnote in, essentially saying, you want to challenge that number, tell us what it really costs, and that'll be the number.
How about this?
And at
Why
what
don't we
point do
just,
they-
why don't we just say $1 million and, all they need is a letter of credit. Or,
I tell you that to install the stormwater management system for this project will be nowhere near $1 million. It might be $100,000, maybe, if it's like the best system in the whole world.
This is a $15 million project.
understand
Where's the
exactly.
money going then?
Well, it's not gonna be, it's not $1 million, I'm just telling you, for this project, I looked at the system. It's
$100,000.
not-
what's a reasonable
It's
number?
not $1 million to
Pat,
install the system.
Pat,
You're talking
Pat,
about establishing
Pat,
like hay bales around the extent of the perimeter of construction and things like that. You know?
No, the stormwater
Oh, and
management, during construction.
Yeah.
But the stormwater management
That's a reasonable
plan.
num-
I don't, I'm
Wait,
not
come on,
comfortable
hold
doing
on. The stormwater management plan is the whole system.
It is the whole
Of
system,
5
not
feet
just
of
the hay
rock and
bales.
pipes and disposition of water. That's where the 15 million is spent. I agree. The actual stuff they put on top, roll out on top, is $1 million. But 5 feet of preparation over acres and acres and acres of land, that's where the $15 million is spent. And you want to, I mean, I guess it's certainly within our purview to have somebody inspect that. And so, you know, whether it's $1 million or $2 million, that's actually probably not enough. I don't even know if that's even enough to cover that part of the construction, because that's the really expensive part.
What are we protecting?
That's, you look at how much land, how much soil they're
Every
gonna,
point, that has to be inspected and signed off and approved by an engineer. What are we protecting by requiring that bond?
In other words,
I
you're
guess because
suggesting that Section 10 of our bylaw is meaningless.
No, it's not, because that's the,
well, that would be normal process. I mean, if it wasn't the school board, if it was Joe Blow developer, we'd say, well, we don't trust Joe Blow developer, so we want a surety bond. And you're saying, well, no, we trust the school board, so we don't need a surety bond. I
And-
mean, okay,
I'm not
I
saying
guess.
that. I'm saying
Why don't we just take a
Joe
vote on
homeowner
it?
doesn't have a
Yeah,
registered engineer.
let's vote on this.
Take a
Bill
vote
into
on
the
this.
Let's
installation.
vote on this, enough discussion, and let's figure out, you know, if you can't provide us with a reasonable amount of money, then, you know, we can discuss that figure. But, so.
So do we want to talk about the figure before we
Let's
vote?
talk about the figure. And, you know, as I said, I pulled that figure, and the other thing is, I looked on the Hamilton Wenham's Regional School District site to see if I could find a budget for this project. I couldn't find a budget for this project anywhere. I never, and it may exist, it may be available on some website, but I couldn't find it, that had some rough breakdown of what the cost would be.
This is
Cost of
per year.
synthetic
This is
turf,
this is maintenance costs. Go
no,
on to the second
no,
paragraph.
construction costs, all the costs. How this $15 million is going to be spent. I couldn't find it anywhere. So what's the cost of building the bleachers, or what's the cost of, how much money is Gale Associates getting? I don't know. I couldn't find it. So that was the number that I derived.
But that sounds like you're using the stormwater bylaw as a OMB, you know,
No, but I was trying to look.
monitoring, you know, that's the
No,
government monitoring the
I was just
government.
trying to find the number that they put relative to the system, the stormwater management systems.
Can I ask a question? Why don't we just go around the table and poll people and find out whether they want any number at all? Pat, you don't want a number.
I don't want to know.
Jonathan?
Well, I think, yeah, I'm going to answer the question with a question. I think the issue here is, it's not so much about the stormwater management system, it's the stakes are high when you put turf on it. That's the issue here. So I think that's what's trying to be managed. So I guess I would ask, what are the different ways to manage that risk? You know, in other words, the bar is high for the stormwater management to work well. It wouldn't be looking so closely at it if the turf wasn't there. The rest of the board can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of what the stakes are here.
Yeah, but that's a given. We already know that.
Right, so,
I think
and
it's a
so,
good question.
so now I'll answer the question. I'm not comfortable putting a number on it, because it could be this could be wildly low, or it could be wildly high. I don't know.
Okay, good. We got an answer.
But the issue is, I'm trying to get to the why. Why are we debating this? And that's, I think, why we're debating it. That's all.
Okay.
Why
Bill.
don't we
I vote for
Frank?
removing the number because I don't know what it is.
Okay, Bill.
Yeah.
I get, it's, yeah, I guess I vote for removing the number too. I think I think Marnie's point that we really don't have a budget, either a capital budget or an annual budget, is kind of, but the citizenry seem to be very happy with that. They don't seem to demand a budget. They voted $15 million. Somebody told them $15 million was the cost. And they didn't break it down. They didn't say this is known with certainty and that's known with certainty. They said, we're gonna put.
Number.
What?
You
He
want a
does
number.
not want to know.
Well, the problem is,
Do not want a number.
if you,
I don't want
if
a
you
number.
Okay,
ask
that's-
for a
keep going.
surety, you can't just say, give us a surety. You have to have an amount, otherwise it's meaningless.
And can we keep going, get a sense of this just,
Well, no, hold on a second. You could just have a paragraph here saying that, there will be periodic inspections of the project.
given?
We
To make
rely-
sure that it conforms with the stormwater management plan.
Well, that's,
No.
that is normal, the inspections, but my take, oh, Patrick, you got something you want to?
Let me suggest, rather than feel like you have to have a number, propose a 5% number based on what their engineer tells you the cost is going to be before it's undertaken. That way, the board doesn't have to divine what a number is or should be.
Well,
That's incumbent on the school to provide you that number through their engineer.
Oh, your engineers are really
Well,
bad.
okay, so we're in the middle of
Should do the
of an
installing.
informal poll here, so we're at Amel.
our problem is we have to honor the bylaws in terms of performance guarantee. That's a requirement.
Well, it says
We
may
also-
require.
Say we may,
Let them
but-
finish.
We also have to comply with the stormwater management requirement that the performance would be equal to the cost of the stormwater management system. Is that correct? So
Suggestion.
it seems to me the number is there. It's held, maybe the contractor who has a contract, because they itemize every single subtrade. There is a number there for stormwater management that, we put some contingency on being provided that number by a certain time, so that we then comply.
So you
with-
want a number?
I want a number
Okay.
in there, yeah.
Barney?
But it's gotta be,
You
it's
obviously
gotta be
want
a
it.
realistic number
Right.
that's based
You
on.
obviously want a number.
Well, no, and that's why I put in the
You don't need to
footnote,
ar- you don't
please
need
give
to
us the
argue.
number.
I'm just trying to get this,
But I mean, if you have a surety, it has to have a
oh,
number
no, I get
associated
it, I
with
get
it.
it. Beth?
Well, I'm just reading the bylaw again, and it says we may require it, so it doesn't necessarily have to happen, so it seems like we should put something in, and if that's what we want, and then it does say, in an amount deemed sufficient by the permit authority. So it does, that is our thing. I don't necessarily know how to come up with a
What
number.
what do you want? You've got a gun to your head, yes or no?
Shoot me. I probably would go kind of like Emil said, with a number that is
All right,
somehow related.
you want a number. I don't want a number. So you've got 4
Well,
to
then it's
3.
a vote.
4 to 3.
4-3,
No number?
no.
No
I mean,
number.
I don't-
No
yeah, I'm
number.
more- Yeah.
I said no number. I might go for percent of costs.
Yes, that would be okay.
10%?
Just picking a number out of a hat is
Yeah,
not okay.
10%. 10%.
10% of what cost?
Project costs.
The project cost.
No, it's stormwater management.
The stormwater management cost, the
Oh.
stormwater management system cost.
Well, the reason you're only taking 10% of project costs is the assumption that the stormwater management is 10% of the project.
Well,
I mean, you want to make it 8%? You have any other, percent you'd like to apply?
If the decision of the board is to require surety, which is not my recommendation, because we've already had and paid extensively for a third-party review by a civil engineer of the system, and he's already imposed conditions of the design that will subsequently be reviewed. Every element will be signed off that it was installed correctly before we proceed through the remainder of the project and obtain occupancy permit. So my recommendation is for no
To take it all out.
surety, to take it all out, but if it is the decision of the board that we have to have it, I would just state it to be at the cost of the installation of the system.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'd support that.
But I don't
Okay, so the bond is the estimated cost of the stormwater management system,
At the cost of the installation of the system.
the system.
If
Sure,
that's what you guys-
that's fine.
So option one for you would be,
You'll go with that? Okay, we've got at least 5 votes for that.
All right, now it's going to read as follows.
And just to make sure we took out at the last paragraph that says the budget should be structured to permit a direct comparison of the turf versus
Yeah.
yeah, we're taking
grass.
that out. yeah.
We're
That's
taking
gotta-
out both those 2 paragraphs that follow.
I mean,
That was a
Oh, taking
recommend,
out, you want to take out, just leave the first part of 11 and then the second and third paragraphs out?
yeah, I would
had
go, I
questions
would,
about some of that, too.
I would go with that, too.
All right, good. So, cost of maintaining synthetic turf, period.
okay, so the paragraph 11 will read, the school district shall provide a performance guarantee in accordance with section 10 of chapter 29 of the Hamilton General Bylaw in the form of a surety bond, irrevocable letter of credit, cash or other acceptable security at the cost of the in the sum of the cost of the installation of the stormwater management system.
Correct.
And then the next paragraph with respect to the recommendation, the second sentence stops after turf. Now we go to the third paragraph.
Well, and do we need to have natural grass? Either we take out that whole paragraph, or we probably should take out natural grass on that first sentence.
We
Well,
recommended
it's a
taking out,
recommendation, and so it's probably going to be good information for them in 2032 or whenever they have to replace this synthetic turf.
I think we eliminate the second and third paragraph. We don't need to provide commentary for reference for
Right,
future projects.
I agree. So
We
you
are
just,
making conditions on the project, not
right.
making,
So just take
not
out
making
those
political
two.
statements.
So you put a period after turf in the first sentence, second sentence, excuse me.
Sorry, I thought we just eliminate the second and third paragraph altogether and leave the condition as stated just now.
It's not a condition, it's a recommendation.
But there's no value in the recommendation for this project.
Pat,
We're conditioning the project.
Okay, what's the consensus here?
you want to get rid of the whole thing, right, Pat?
Paragraph 2 and 3 to get rid of completely.
Yeah, I agree.
I had a question when I read through this separately, just wondering what authority we have on some of this, like,
It's not a condition.
okay,
It can be ignored.
right.
Well, I think, for me, it would be scratch out, cross out for natural grass and turf fields, and take out everything after turf in the next section. Then the recommendation would be there, and they could ignore it.
And then take out that last paragraph or leave the last paragraph?
Take out the last, yeah.
So we put
Which
in.
one? About the,
In additions, the school district operations and maintenance budget, take that one out.
And then leave the first two sentences and stop at the, take out natural grass and turf for the first sentence.
Yeah.
And then end at synthetic turf at the second sentence.
I would go with that.
Yeah.
Geez, I thought,
Number 12, I would just state that per the stormwater handbook and reference our bylaw requirements, that they follow the long-term operation and maintenance plan. It's that confirming condition that I mentioned previously that's sometimes found in the site plan review, but it's just to state that they will follow the long-term operation and maintenance plan.
I'm sorry, what are you saying, Pat? Where am I?
For number 12,
Okay.
there's no requirement that they state who does it. It's just a requirement that it's either, they give you examples of what people who are qualified to do that exercise are. It's either a civil engineer or some other recommended professional. But it doesn't, I don't think we need to have them state who it is, because it could change over time, too.
Well, you know, it's unfortunate that this condition was in the last iteration. So we could have dealt with a lot of these things on March 26th. And now we're revisiting things that could have been handled earlier.
Yep.
So what's the consensus here?
So you're,
I think it ought to stay in. You got to identify the identity.
And
The entity is gonna
yeah, and I mean,
correct it.
I looked at the logs, and it does indicate, I looked at the operations and maintenance plan, and there are logs that have to be filled out, and so there should be someone responsible for the people who are filling out those logs. So it's not the most stringent condition that's gonna cause anybody to tear their hair out. Does anyone else have a problem with this other than Pat?
I have no problem with it as it stands, and I have no problem with adding a reference to the stormwater handbook, but I'm not sure it's necessary.
Okay, let's move on. Unless, anybody have,
We lost-
anybody else have
we
a
lost
problem
Rick.
with it?
well, oh,
we
Rick,
lost
I think, went to the bathroom. Just a typo on this between. And, yep.
Are we on to 14 yet?
No, no. Till Rick gets back. This is a problem.
So before we start with this section, I'd like to offer an opinion or thought, which is, I personally have no problem with referencing the Conservation Commission conditions, but I would caution against repeating them, because even a missing word or a piece of punctuation can create a different meaning. So I think we could reference them, and I think we could supplement them if it's supportable and appropriate, but I don't think we should in any place repeat the wording.
And page 7.
I agree with that.
Because I just think, from a professional point of view, that is the riskiest thing you can do. So,
I'm sorry, can you just repeat that?
sure. Okay, as far as, this is a broad comment for this next whole section.
Got it.
My opinion is that I have no problem, and other people may have a problem with referencing the
Right.
Concom conditions. I have no problem with referencing them, but I do have a problem restating them.
Yeah.
It should reference the number of the condition or the page or the date of the condition, but not restate the words. If there's anything we want to add to that condition that's legally supportable, we could put those words in our conditions, but we should not be restating the words that are in the Conservation Commission condition. That's a general, in the world of design and engineering, that's a general no-no. You don't repeat information on separate pages, you don't repeat information in separate documents because they can contradict. That's just that's a professional
Totally makes
practice.
sense.
It's just
Yeah.
professional
Yeah.
practice.
Yep.
That's all. Now we can go into the details of it. So Marnie, maybe you can guide us through that principle.
No, actually, I would like to just have someone else do that.
Well, we don't know where the words have been repeated versus,
Our
and it's no
condition.
criticism of crafting it. It's just, that's just sort of a general professional practice rule, so.
Well, generally speaking, when I did this, I cut and pasted from their document.
Okay. So a safer thing to do, I mean, other people could have a different opinion about this, but we've got, a number of people who are kind of in this field. I think a safer thing to do is you reference the section, but don't repeat the words.
I think it's good by redefining F and limit it to the purpose of the stormwater, we could say, instead of consistency between Conservation Commission's order and conditions, and the purpose, I think this section is just 100% related to the protection of water resources. Don't even talk about Conservation Commission, and just talk about anything in here that's above and beyond or in addition to the order of conditions that were set forth. There's no reason to even have a section that mentions the Conservation Commission findings. This is a section that talks about protection of water resources.
Right.
So maybe we just limit it to that.
So, but I'm open to, that's just my opening opinion. I'm
So, all
open to
right, so
discussion on
if-
that.
If you want to go that route, you just say, the planning board supports and recommends adherence to the Conservation Commission conditions.
But it doesn't really, I guess, I'm not sure it matters if you do, because they're already imposed. But I think, I was just saying for this section F, we rename it to say protection of water resources, because these are each subsection.
You're just changing the title?
We're just changing the title, and then when we go through, we can eliminate anything that's a repeat of
Oh, okay.
Conservation Commission orders. So these are
10-0.
the planning board's conditions set forth to further protect water resources.
So you're suggesting we take out anything that's already been defined by the Conservation Commission?
Well,
And just adding
he's
what?
talking about the title.
Right, but then he's talking about then taking out those things and just leaving in anything we've added. Is that do I understand that
Yeah.
correctly?
It's
Which is a
agreeing
little
with,
different than what
Okay,
Jonathan
it's
all
agreeing
right.
with what Jonathan's saying. It's just
Can we, then, let's go through
Finding how
this.
to do it.
Let's just go
I mean,
through this.
Do others agree or disagree with that statement?
No,
Just putting it on the
I
table.
agree.
I don't know which statement we're talking.
The statement of not repeating the words from the
I
conditions.
agree with that, but I think making reference to it,
I have no problem making reference. I would propose making reference to the numbers.
I think it's kind of a,
It reinforces it,
reinforces. it,
yes.
so.
But I just caution against repeating words.
Because if it was misstated
Yeah.
in one place.
Yes, then
Then you get
it's
confused.
it's not confused. It actually is contradictory and sort of legally,
Okay, let's do-
legally problematic.
Yeah, okay, we have to stop here and I'm gonna make an observation. Given all these changes to this document, this was all in the material that we had at our last meeting. So now we're going through them again, and unless you all wanna stay till midnight, we're not gonna be voting on this decision, because there's no way this can be redrafted on the spot by me tomorrow.
I don't know, we're on page 7.
We're on page 7,
Of
and
12, but-
basically, the next 2 pages would require for me to go to the orders of conditions and just sort through all this.
I don't think it's your requirement to do it. I think we're together deciding, and I'm happy to, as opposed to kicking the can another couple of weeks, I think we get through the remaining of it, because we'll find ourselves in the same position a couple of weeks from now and having to go through and revise. We're agreeing on conditions. So far, there's been clarity provided on what's,
Well, if you just want to reference the numbers of the
In other words, we don't have
conservation.
to do that on the spot. We could just agree that that's the task.
I think,
Let's do it.
I think 13 is
Does
just a
any-
general statement to say, the applicant shall,
Be consistent with the Conservation Commission's orders of condition.
yeah,
By
shall
We could do s-
fulfill the orders of, the conditions as established by the by the
Well,
conservation.
actually, in some instances, these conditions go beyond what the conservation.
And
And
that's
that's what I'm suggesting that we add. That's what I'm suggesting we add.
one general statement to say, they shall follow the conditions set forth by the,
Right, but we have gone
Conservation
further,
Commission.
Right, and
because
then add
and then let's go through
So
the-
let's go let's
additional ones.
identify where we've gone further, so that
Yeah.
takes care of the problem.
But 13 could just be.
who
fulfilled.
has a copy of the orders of conditions?
Not me.
For Concom, I normally have it. I don't
I
have it
do.
tonight.
I have a copy. Let me see if I can find it. Excuse me,
They're like
my temper
99,
is-
they're like 90 conditions, so
Yes, there are.
can I make?
But we don't have to do it on the spot.
Can
Well,
I make
think we could do
actually,
this.
you know, if I don't do it on the spot,
Yeah.
then there will be more disagreement, because as I said, these have been in here all along.
That's the
So my
frustration.
frustration
Nobody has
is
done
that nobody picks up
homework.
on anything
All right,
until
can
they
I-
want to finish.
let-
But now, because there are all these
Make this
changes,
really
we're not going to
simple.
finish.
We can
But we
make this
never got
really,
to these
we can
points
make
in
this
previous-
really simple. So is number 14 a new condition?
Yes.
It's not in the Conservation Commission's conditions. Because
It's-
it's not referencing them in here, so I assume that's a new condition that were proposed.
This is new language.
Fourteen is probably new,
14 is new, and we're going with the Massachusetts standard.
right?
And
it-
then if it becomes
We-
more
Yeah,
stringent.
we talked about this last week.
Yep.
We agreed to this last week, right? Okay. so
Now-
let's
now,
move- let's-
hold-
no, no,
hold-
No more
hold on a
debate, no
second.
more debate. Let's move on.
No. This is a standard for drinking water. Number 14 says in the text, it's PFAS-free, which means that the creation of the product has no PFAS in it. And that's not a standard. The 20 milligrams per milliliter,
That's true, they're
that
contradictory.
has to do with drinking water. That
Well,
does
they're
not have to do
contradictory.
with if you take a fiber and test it, how many nanograms of PFAS does it have? That's a different issue. And the problem is that, according to a whole bunch of things published in the Times just 2 days ago, nothing is PFAS-free in manufacturing. You can't make the fabric without using lubricant in the little machines that exert it. And so there's always going to be some PFAS in manufacturing, in the fibers, and I've never seen a number you know, about how much that is, and presumably there's more or less, but the point is that the 20 and the 4 that are talked about, those are drinking water standards, that's totally different.
Well, why not?
In order to show up in the drinking water, you might have 10 times that in the fiber, and somehow it all breaks down. It has a half-life of 5 years, and it breaks down as it perks through the soil and winds up in the water. So
Well, the reason this is in here, and
so you
again,
can't say that's the standard for, you could say the lowest level of PFAS in manufacturing among competitive products.
using this test,
What?
using this standard. Well, here's
Or just that
here's the issue.
apply.
Here's the issue. If you go and you look for synthetic turf, you will find there are many, maybe many is too strong a word, but there are entities that promote their product as PFAS-free.
Right.
And they use a standard that's so high that it doesn't detect PFAS. So they can say it's PFAS-free.
Right. So, but that's what everybody's talking about is the drinking water standard, not
Well,
not
there
what
is
comes
no-
out of the
How about this?
machine
How about this?
standard.
No other
How about
standard.
this?
There's no,
How about this? The lowest,
Among competitive products?
yeah, the lowest possible among products currently available.
I think it's
Yeah.
to utilize the best
Now,
technology.
the
available.
contractor may have a problem with that. He may come back and say,
Well-
all right, if you're going to make me do that, it'll be 1.6 million as opposed to, 16 million instead of the 15 million.
We can
But
make a recommendation here, and the recommendation is, at the time of award, the successful installer will be utilizing the best technologies available to minimize to the greatest extent possible the use of any PFAS, because there is no Massachusetts.
There's no Massachusetts
certification
standards about manufacturing.
Materials used in.
Why don't we simplify this and put PFAS-free in quotes?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta eliminate all this.
They're all going to say they're PFAS-free.
No, as confirmed-
That is something that will,
No.
that will achieve nothing.
No,
I sort of
as
like Rick's thing.
confirmed by the most sensitive PFAS testing available, which at the time is the
No,
Massachusetts.
that's water
They
testing.
don't test though, Marnie, that the materials are manufactured and the manufacturing process has a certification, say it is being manufactured with this, that, or the other chemical. There's no test afterwards of that material to confirm that it actually consists of there's no validation entity that comes back and says, that certificate for this drug is actually the materials that, there's no
Yeah,
analytical
he's-
test that
he's-
comes
it's
about.
true,
that.
it's true.
You monitor water, you award to the best technology available.
Every manufacturer knows exactly how much is.
They
in
do.
it.
and
Yes,
it's-
absolutely.
It's in the
Absolutely,
200,
but they're not going to tell you.
it's in the 200, you know, the information is in the application. They had the testing from the manufacturers, and they showed what was in it. They can do
Okay,
that.
what if they use different test standards?
Well,
Then you're
what are
going
you,
to.
what are you suggesting in terms of language?
The best technology
here.
available, the best tech, it is a
You
recommendation.
could say,
Recommendation.
you recommend that the product have the lowest PFAS involved in its manufacturing using the most sensitive test available at the time.
You can't outline what it is,
I like that.
yeah.
And so that sets up a competition. You got 5 producers of this stuff, you know, and they're each using their test, but you've said we use the best test, and we'll pick the lowest level.
Could you write that down on a piece of paper and provide that language to me? Because I can't follow this. Sorry.
Just, are we going to recommend this, or are we going to require?
No, we should require it.
We require that the turf, the provider of turf, that the chosen provider of turf have turf that is lower, the lowest,
Has the lowest amount of
Verified that it
PFAS.
verifiably lowest PFAS level among competing products,
Using the most sensitive.
using the
te-
most sensitive tests available at the
testing
time.
available time. Yeah, yeah, you got it.
And there are 3 manufacturers that can do that.
Yeah, maybe the Chinese will come in with some really low level, who knows?
Don't go there, Bill.
So 15 and 16,
Hold on.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to read this.
Yep.
So, the school district shall be responsible for the performance of independent third-party testing for currently regulated PFAS chemicals for the synthetic turf products chosen, and provide written certification that the materials chosen to be used in the construction and installation of the athletic fields contain the lowest amount of PFAS, the lowest PFAS level of competing products using the most sensitive PFAS testing available.
At the time.
Did you want, I think Bill said the
they're gonna
verified
choose-
lowest?
they're gonna choose at the point of award. At the point of award, the field won't be installed to be verified.
But the product can be verified before it's installed.
So as a.
From what I've read, you're gonna have to pay for it. The PFASs make the manufacturing process much more smooth. And everybody's kind of figuring out there's some way they can do it with some kind of lubricant that doesn't have PFAS, and nobody's found a way yet, I guess. That's my reading of it. But there's, there's worse and less worse.
Yeah.
At
So what are you
least
wrestling
less
with over
worse.
there, Pat?
What? It's just hard to test and verify at the time of award. It's, the vendor is gonna provide their certification and the makeup of the materials that are used during manufacturing, and that's basically what you're awarding on. Leveraging the best technologies available at the time of award, which is their certificate that their products contain this, that, or the other chemical. It won't be tested prior to award. It'll be based on.
Their standard
It's kinda like
manufacturing.
you're gonna, you're not gonna race the car before you buy it. You're gonna rely on the manufacturer's performance information that are provided to you for buying it.
But
So-
they don't use the lowest level of testing available.
No, but you're awarding on the certification of the materials that reflect the lowest levels of PFAS. So you're awarding on the best specification. You're awarding on the best materials.
My guess is they're all about the same, and that they don't use the lowest.
But we can guess a lot of things, but I'm saying that that's
No,
that's an
but
appropriate condition to
but-
put in.
But why would they?
uh,
They're not going to do that, because it's hard for them
I
to
mean,
do that.
if you're falsifying certifications of materials.
But there may be differences. No, wait a minute. They're all gonna say, our material is PFAS-free using test blah, 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 and the test will be a test that shows unknown detectable PFAS. And then you'll have to have some third party come in and say, well, this test is really much more sensitive, and they couldn't
I
pass
know, and
that.
who's gonna say who has the best technology?
So,
I mean, Gale Associates is gonna set out a specification. The specification will have probably an outline of maybe some maximum limits but the certifications they're gonna get materials back better specifications from the vendor on what they use to manufacture the systems. And that's what they're gonna award on, the best information, the best technologies, the lowest levels of PFAS.
That the manufacturer says, or in,
Yeah, but I mean,
in other words, it's meaningless, take it out. That's what you're saying, this is meaningless, take it
no,
out.
I'm not saying it's meaningless. I think you're taking it in a different direction, what I'm saying. I'm basing this on reality and how packages get awarded. They don't get awarded on testing and that gets done on a field that's not been installed. They get awarded on specifications that outline the materials that are used in the manufacturing process. If a manufacturer at this point installing these fields is falsifying the information that they're using they wouldn't be in business anymore, I guarantee it. There's only a handful of these people around. There's 2 or 3 of them. They're gonna award between 2 or 3 vendors. And they're gonna be accredited, and they're gonna have certifications that reflect the materials they use in manufacturing. They're not gonna be
So
falsified.
how would you change what we just wrote?
I would say that the school district shall award on a vendor's, the installer based on the lowest levels of PFAS in the materials certified being used through the course of construction of the materials being installed.
It's meaningless,
Yeah,
it's meaningless.
you're telling the contractor to write the specification. There's no
Right.
reason you can't write a spec on that. Have Gale Engineering give the test that will test for the lowest possible PFAS. And then if they want to bid on it, they
Test
bid on
what,
it.
though? Test a sample they
Products,
provide?
Yeah,
Yeah.
A sample.
and if they don't want to do it, or if they know what it is, they'll say, okay, we'll test it, and this is what it is, and if it passes, then go forward with it.
So.
Why not? I mean, if you're only gonna test
Yeah,
3 or 4 samples,
What are you
why,
testing?
what?
What are you testing?
it's worth their while. I
Little,
mean,
little fibers?
Grass?
you
Yeah,
can-
you're testing the
Some-
grass.
some-
You can create your own. say
We,
you-
there's another part of Concom and our requirements that require natural materials for the subsurface, right? No crushed tires or whatever. And this is the grass, yeah, absolutely.
And the backing.
And what?
The backing.
And the backing, yeah.
And how much of the grass in the backing are we testing too?
A little sample like that, I guess. I'm,
But all that could be created equal, there's gonna be a range, you know what I mean? There'd be a maximum level.
that would be really,
Yeah.
that could set off a really interesting competition among the three providers. If you actually say you have to submit your little sample and
I just don't know how you do it even. You would
Right,
run a mass
that's like the
spectrometry, you would.
No,
drip-
I
they're
don't
testing
either.
labs.
They have the, they
They're
have the test
testing
number.
labs.
They
Yeah,
tell you how to do it.
but think about something, I come from a testing lab, so you would perform a mass spec test you'd run a sequencing
Well, say-
instrument
say you wanna
across the,
cons-
you
I don't wanna
can't
spend
dissect
all
a
the time
piece of
because-
grass.
But
You could drip water over it and let the water fall into, but there's no test. There's only the materials that make up the material.
the
There's no way
EPA
to,
has a test number. And for example, if you had to do a firewall over there
yeah.
and you wanted to come up with something new, you can actually, you get it tested for a fire rate, say you want a 2-hour, 3-hour.
All right, yeah.
yeah, but they blowtorch it. I mean,
I'm just trying to
the
figure out
question
how you
he's
do it.
You're
he's
gonna Use
asking,
an ASTM number for a test,
He's-
run through that
Mass
test,
spectrometry, is that how you're doing? I don't know if you.
ASTM test to determine what is the fire rating on that wall. You're
he,
using different-
but they may not have a test. The EPA is concerned about pollution, so they have a test for water. That's different than testing the fiber. So I don't
know.
I agree. I don't know how
I
whether
think,
anybody does it.
I think the reasonable condition and it achieves the goal that we're setting out to do. I don't think it's a nothing burger. I think it's reasonable to award on the best specification out there.
Okay.
Award on the
Award on
best
Can I,
specification.
excuse me, can I make a suggestion? So how about on number 14, and I'm going to read it as I've amended it. The school district shall be responsible for obtaining third-party verification for regulated whatever those substances, I'm not gonna pronounce them, substances for the synthetic turf products and provide written certifications that materials used in the construction and installation of the athletics contain PFAS at the lowest level available as confirmed by the most sensitive PFAS testing.
Did you write that down?
Yeah.
Sure.
You can hand it to me
Okay.
then.
I mean, I agree, that may actually prove to be more difficult than, easier to write than it is to implement, but we'll find out.
It makes it really easy.
Okay.
Well, it says use the lowest, but it doesn't say what.
And scratch
about
out then the water standard of 20 parts per million, because,
That all has to do with, just take
That's-
that out, that's water testing.
You
That's-
gotta take all that out.
Right.
okay, and take out, should the US EPAs be more stringent? It won't be by the time they award the contract, which will be within the next couple of weeks.
15, we could remove. 16.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to, are we just double counting here? We just want to say, the planning board supports all of the conditions imposed by the Conservation Commission with respect to water quality testing on the project site and surrounding wetlands. I mean,
Are you on 15?
Yeah.
Are you on 15?
I think we generalized the statement before that we support the orders and conditions.
Are you,
That's
what do you-
set
where are we?
We're on
15.
15
We're on
now,
15.
Thank you,
I think.
thank you.
This isn't anything, we're only considering the new things.
Right.
So this isn't,
Then take it out.
yeah.
So,
Or if Jonathan had said. for-
I was saying,
Can I-
I have no problem with referencing the conditions, but we shouldn't reword them or cut it and paste them. They should be referenced by number.
okay, so if we get to the end of number 74,
Yeah.
is that it?
What's the benefit of numbering them at all, I guess? Because we're supporting all of them, not just some.
Yeah, just support them all of the conditions,
Okay,
Hold
the
on.
Conservation Commission, end of,
Marnie has gone through the conditions one by one. I have not done that, so I'm going to hold my opinion on that for the moment.
I am not sure that the Conservation Commission required testing with respect to all their,
we're
I
not
don't know
saying,
that when-
we're not saying,
I don't know when they said
we can
testing.
impose our own thing on top of it. So
That's-
if they don't have testing and we do, that's fine.
Well,
We're
I
just
think-
saying we support what they have.
Yeah, but I think their testing wasn't necessarily done by an independent third-party testing
Then we
lab.
can add that in.
well, who else would do it?
I think they didn't call for testing, is what she's saying. She
I'm
said
not-
they didn't call for testing.
Oh, so what,
I'd have to look at each one.
it says, with respect to water quality testing on the project site, including conditions 38, 39, 65, 66, and 74, that kind of indicates.
Why don't we just say we
Kind of
support,
indicates by inference that they are requiring testing.
And if they require testing, it has to be.
third-party testing? Yeah, so why don't we just say, we support all conditions imposed by the Conservation Commission with the added requirement that testing be done by third parties,
By an independent third party,
by independent third parties.
period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, are we the one that's imposing at the regular intervals throughout the project lifetime?
So the Conservation Commission has some of those, but
They-
they didn't, they
they-
had to be done at intervals, but they didn't necessarily have to be posted anywhere.
So the posting.
So
is-
the Conservation Commission wanted it done throughout, required intervals throughout the lifetime of the project.
Well, for certain of those, I'd have to go through each one of these. I can't answer these
I
questions.
assume
at
that's
this-
the case, though. You didn't make that up on your own.
I may have made up,
Reporting to the planning board.
right.
And usually it's the Board of Health. The Board of Health then communicates to the other boards if there's a result that's outside an expected level.
Well, I don't think the Board of Health gets involved in wetlands and whatnot. They do septic systems, but I don't think that
Okay.
They get water testing results and things like that.
So,
could add the Board of Health. How's that?
so with 16,
I don't know how this is gonna get amended, just so you know. I have to look at each one of those.
so it looks like 16 is a repeat of the Conservation Commission's order of conditions.
Yep.
Is that true?
Yep, I'd have to look at it.
If so, then we don't need it.
I would have to look. I would have to try and find that. I am really annoyed that this all could have been done.
I think 17 is redundant to 14? Except for water monitoring? And any test that's required for water monitoring has got to be done by a certified lab. There's only 2 in the state of Mass I'm aware of that test for PFAS, and
Are you on,
Yep.
are you on 17?
He's
Yeah.
at 17.
Yeah, because that's a sort of repeat of what 16 is, as you said.
I think, well, with the exception of the first item, which refers to water,
Yeah,
so I think you can leave water in, or eliminate the rest. And I don't think that, yeah, I mean, there's really only, to do the testing, you have to go to a certified lab
yeah, I mean, it.
that has,
Other, it's, s- 17 really repeats what 15 is requiring.
water monitoring is required by the conservation. So if the Conservation Commission required some water monitoring,
Right.
that water monitoring has to be done by a certified lab.
Right.
So this isn't anything new in item 17.
Yeah, I think, again, we're getting so, into soil microbes here. It's even hard to understand what we're trying to get done here, because 17 really is talking about water testing, water monitoring and testing, and then
No, it's 17 is talking about the qualifications of the lab, so that the lab can establish that they can
Oh, okay.
do the following things. It's not about, these
Oh,
are things
Yeah, it's
that
not
are
about the
required.
standards, it's about the lab.
the
This-
competence of the lab.
Then
I mean,
it's-
some labs are better than others.
So is this a conservation
Well,
already put in their requirements? This is a new
I
one?
can't answer that. I can't answer this off the top of my head. I mean, I have to repeat that all of this could have been done prior to tonight. And in my mind, you know, it puts such an onus on me, because I'm expected to incorporate all your comments, and then we'll vote. But if I were you, I wouldn't necessarily rely on me to capture everything you've done, because I did that the last go-round, and look at where we are.
but we didn't have now we have the time to go through it, so let's continue. I think item 17 is redundant with what we already discussed above, and the lab is certified to do the test or not. There's no varying degree of the quality you're getting out of a lab. The lab is certified to do a test or it's not by the state. And it's the state requirements that have to be fulfilled. So I think item 17 doesn't add a new condition that we're imposing. These are all existing.
Relative to 15.
Relative to 15, relative to 15 and 14, which we already said we're going to eliminate 15 and 16 because they're redundant and already captured by the
What are
conservation.
we eliminating?
15, 16, and 17.
We're not, are we?
They're all captured as part of the existing orders and conditions by the Conservation Commission.
Well,
Well,
what,
the question is if we leave, like Jonathan said, if we mention them or we don't mention them.
again, my suggestion was it's fine to mention the reference number, but not repeat the language.
Well, I think she did that in 15.
But I think I'm comfortable with what I know of after having read a while ago the Conservation Commission's findings, that we just generally reference. They're already existing conditions, so it actually doesn't matter if we agree or not.
Right.
They're existing conditions. We should only be talking about conditions above and beyond the conditions that have already been established. And my opinion is in 15, 16, and 17, there's nothing new. We already added something new in 14, and that's with regards to the system that's being installed.
We changed 15 to
Oh, we changed
support
14.
everything the Conservation Commission does with the requirement, the additional requirement that it be done by a third-party tester.
But I was making the point that to do the test, you have to be certified by the state. So you can't, that's a nothing burger requirement. Because there's already a requirement to have a third party. The third party actually has to be certified to do the test.
Right, it's redundant.
And there's two in the state of Massachusetts certified to do the PFAS test.
Yeah, you can't go to Joe's Pizza and ask them for certification.
So 14, we established additional levels of requirements around the specification of the system to get installed. That's something the Conservation Commission had not done.
Where do we say anything about supporting,
You don't
That's,
need to.
15 shouldn't be eliminated, it should.
where do we say anything about supporting the Conservation Commission's water testing agenda?
I
As
think,
opposed to the manufacturing agenda?
well,
That'd be in probably number 15.
That's sort of what I was thinking, right? Okay,
You
that's,
don't eliminate 15.
I wouldn't
you
eliminate 15.
Transform it.
We, mull it around a little if you want. But that's water testing as opposed to 14.
Is
which
materials.
Which is materials testing.
I just don't know what the relevance of a decision is to support another decision that's already been established. It
Right, it's repetitive.
can make us feel good,
By a
But-
sovereign agency.
but it's a condition. It doesn't matter what we think. If we made a condition that we don't agree, that's also not relevant. I think we did a nice job establishing additional level of requirement for the installation of the materials being used in the field. 15, 16, and 17 are redundant.
Hey, it doesn't hurt to support the Conservation Commission's water
I'm taking them
quality
out because
testing
I'm not going to
agenda.
try and parse people's language here. And then with respect to posting, that's new. So that's going to become number 15.
I would agree with
I'm tired of this. Frankly, I'm tired of it. So let's just move on.
I think 16 and 17 can be,
I'm taking 15 out. I'm not trying to parse what's being said here.
And take 17 out.
Yeah, she did,
Okay, and,
and
all right,
16.
good, so we're on to
Those
18.
reports.
And then, no, now we're on to the well testing. And this is a
the
recommendation.
well testing is 18.
18, and that's a recommendation.
No, the well testing will now be 15.
Great.
No, it'll be 16.
This
Right.
15 is gonna be just reporting? You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? We're just
Yes.
adding the reporting.
Yes.
And then that's gonna be to the planning board or the board of health or both?
And I can add the Board of Health.
Okay. Planning board, board of health, conservation commission. Got it.
So the well testing is a recommendation with the protocol that was set forth in the Conservation Commission's order.
So here we're recommending not requiring testing of the private wells.
Right, because we can't request, we
No,
can't
no,
require.
I get it.
owners to test. Yep.
So then you probably want to get rid of the paragraphs that follow, because it says prior to the commencement of work on the site.
This is the protocol for the well testing.
So if they test the wells,
Which they're not going to. So,
I don't think they're going to do the well testing, even though it's in their interest to,
right, they're not.
because otherwise they could be sued and be held liable for things they didn't cause.
Right.
No, if they do the well testing prior to.
Then they have a
install-
benchmark. and
Then they have a
baseline.
baseline.
Right.
I
And
think
if
it
they
would-
do the well testing and find their PFAS in the wells already,
Yeah.
then they're protected. But if they want to take the risk that their stormwater management system somehow fails, or there's some kind of hydrogeological thing, and there's PFAS in these wells after this project is in place for a couple years, and they want to get sued, it's on them.
So again, this was a recommendation by the reviewer.
Yeah, but I
So-
think
so
the
that-
recommendation, I think we've gone, my
So-
only opinion, if, I agree, it's a nice recommendation to make, but I think it opens the door a little bit to make it an easier condition to achieve if we outline the current standard by the state of Massachusetts and the current testing requirements that the state has set forth, not making reference to all this other stuff and how they're gonna do it. I think it'd be a lot simpler. It's an $800 test, one of the two labs, and if they use the test that's already readily available, that lab is certified to do, which is the state of Massachusetts requirement for the PFAS levels in drinking water, the current standard, I would feel a lot more comfortable. But I think the way it's written to describe what could happen in the future, and
That's in the order of conditions.
I understand.
The Conservation Commission stated that it expects that these regulations will change.
That's fine that they mention it, but I think if we're making a recommendation, my opinion would be to open it up to require what is currently,
That's footnote
Standard.
5.
Can I make a suggested change to the paragraphs that follow the recommendation of testing? It says prior to the commencement of work on the site. Change it to, should Hamilton Wenham Regional School District elect to conduct testing of private wells, the applicant shall engage in an independent testing laboratory. Because the way it reads now, it says prior to commencement of work on the site, the applicant shall engage independent testing laboratory for well sampling. In other words, could be inferred that this section is saying, well, they have to do the well testing.
right. So do you want to give Marnie that wording as
I
well as
just-
the other wording? Yeah.
Why don't we say something like, the applicant shall set up a system of testing adjacent property owners' wells, which includes a baseline, and then annual, biannual.
We don't need to rework this. It already says, it's enough detail. It
I'm
says-
going to just reference the order of condition number if I can find it.
From the Conservation Commission?
Yep. Because this was one of their water monitoring things, and I'll see if I can find it.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah, I don't think we need the footnotes either.
So for number 16, we're just going to reference the Conservation Commission? Is that what we're doing?
After the recommendation, assuming I can find it.
Okay. Oh, so we'll do, yeah.
G? we on G?
Yes.
Now, here I actually disagree with Patrick. Maintenance is maintenance, and this is a capital replacement. It's like buying a car every 10 years. You maintain a car and then you buy a new car. We're gonna have to buy a new field every 10 years.
And it's complicated by the fact that it may be outlawed, and something
Yes,
different
well,
may
is
happen.
it, I think it's highly
It may have
likely,
to be re-engineered.
I think it's highly likely that at year 10, we'll not only have to dispose of the grass, the artificial grass that's there, but the state will have by that time banned it, and we'll have to re-engineer all the subsurface to reinstall dirt.
And it won't be completely re-engineering. A lot of the preparation works for turf, but it won't be exact. In other words, there would be some re-engineering, there would be
Right.
some forward movement from the previous installation, but that's why I have
Separate
that's
the-
why I have trouble coming up with a number. There's no way to predict it. There's just no way to predict it.
But I don't
And I
think,
find this to be the most troubling part of this whole process here. And I don't know what the solution is, but I have to agree with you, Bill, that I don't think that the removal is maintenance. I strongly disagree with that.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
No, I know that, but it's,
So let's deal with the issue as written, rather than talking about other things. So I object to the 19 because you're asking a contractor to project his cost future 10 years in the future. You can't.
can't.
So that's gotta go.
Agreed.
But we can say that they'll bore the cost if it's failing within its warranty period or something like that. But that's already in the
Which,
contract
what are
that
you
they'll sign.
talking about?
We're
19?
on G.
Which
Gee.
number?
19, strike it.
I think we need to talk about it.
Why? We just agreed that it's impossible to cost estimate.
I'm not talking about these words. I'm saying how do we address this? It's a big deal. It's the elephant in the room. How do we address it? Maybe
don't
we
need
can't.
to.
Maybe we can't, but we need to talk about it.
Okay, so the question is,
Can't.
do we have the authority to tell the school district?
That's what we're going to talk about.
That's
How
what
about
we
should recommend
That's fine.
recommend?
in its contract documents?
That's
This is
fine.
a big if, because the manufacturer.
well,
the
there's
contractor
an
may
easy
well be
way,
out of
there's an easy
business.
way of shifting the risk here, right? You can say that the contract signed has to include disposal at year 10, 11, 12, whatever you want to make up. Has to include the cost of, has to include replace, you can't say replacement because you may not be able to
Right.
replace it. Has to
Disposals,
include
no matter what.
removal of
Disposal.
the material at the end of its life.
You
Take
can't.
it out, take it out. Just take it out.
Yeah, you can make that a contract.
You can make
You
that,
can make
Yeah,
that part
but
of the
the-
contract.
You can make that part
And
of
then,
the
I mean, you
contract.
may not get anybody who wants to bid on that contract. That's what you're saying, Rick,
Is
but
that our job?
But another thing you would be
Needs to
doing.
go.
They'll put a
It
number.
needs to go, period. You can't ask a contractor to bid 10 years in the future because you don't know what the costs are, if this is going to be available, what's available, if that contractor's still in business. I mean, it's just absurd. So it needs to go, period. There's no argument for keeping it in.
It'd be a good exercise to go through to ask for an option price to remove and dispose of at the end of 10 years, because you don't want to buy it outright. You're going to spend, because it'll give you some crazy amount of money that's going to be required, and you're
Right.
going to be required to award on that, and you'll waste a bunch of money.
oh, come
I
on,
think
we
we're-
economists can come up with all sorts of contracts. You can lease it, right?
We do, we
You
can't
can lease,
control
I'm
that.
gonna lease the grass for 10 years.
Okay.
And then it's yours, and then it's yours, Mr. Contractor.
Well,
And you come up with a price for leasing it.
Okay.
If you know what in today's dollars, what it takes to go to a landfill and dump it in a landfill and just build in an increase
Yeah.
per year,
Yeah.
going out
And
10
then
years.
if they're out of business, then we paid for it.
That's the best.
I think it's acceptable to impose a condition to say that the Hamilton Wenham School District shall dispose of appropriately the material, and to leave it at that. Like, they're required to do it, it's the project, they own the prop, it's their thing, but you can't say that we have to award a condition now to pay for that, and you can't know what it is. I don't know, I just, it is a trick.
Well, then that's writing the contract, which Rick says nobody will want, which is they're responsible for removing it.
Right, and it's absurd. It's just patently absurd.
I have to agree it's absurd, and it's what I find deeply concerning about this whole process, because you just, with a laser point, we just zeroed in on the issue with this project with the turf. We just zeroed in on it.
Right.
And I agree, you cannot have this condition, and this is no win.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm throwing my hands up on this one, no win.
right, no, I
Just
get,
throw my hands up, I
Yep.
don't care.
That's my vote right there. I give
I don't
up on
care,
that
take
condition.
it out.
Okay, but do we want?
So then
to-
all the
okay.
risk, all that,
No, we're
then
going
the
to
town
number
is
20.
absorbing all the
No,
risk.
we're going
Absolutely,
to
the
20.
taxpayers absorb it 10
The
years from now.
taxpayers voted for it,
No,
so
no,
they're
no.
going to have to absorb
No.
the risk 10 years
We're
later.
talking about 19. I'm going to 20, and I'm not giving up on 20.
Well, that's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it's tantamount to the
Not.
same thing.
It's not, because this is the requirement of the school district to put money aside. And if I have to, I will read what leads me to that conclusion.
the what?
You were at town meeting when
Well,
Mr. Tracy agreed to this condition.
No, he agreed, I think he agreed to the prior one, which was a maintenance, an
No,
escrow account to handle maintenance.
read the footnote. I quoted his language verbatim,
Okay.
page 11.
Okay.
Where was the footnote? Where's the footnote?
Page 11.
Well, it just says their budgeting process for something related to turf. It doesn't say specifically what they're budgeting for.
He was asked the question whether the budget for the years in which the synthetic turf will be used would include the disposal and replacement cost amortized, so we won't have a big ask at the year 10 for the replacement, like budgeting will be included going forward. And Mr. Tracy responded.
I think
Then
that,
that's all we can ask for.
But I don't know if we need to define what it is. I think we
We
have to
are
require
waiting
that they
for
do.
our final conditions from the planning board, which one of the draft conditions I've seen is something of the effect of having an escrow account, so we could comply with that. I think that's the right way to do it.
Right,
I think it's important to budget for these things ahead of time, so that we're not all of a sudden coming back to the town and saying, oh, we need $1 million.
Guess
So
what?
being able to do that over time makes sense to us.
You can't dictate the financing of other departments, so.
No, but that department, we don't have to dictate because they agreed to it.
Yeah.
Mr. Tracy, did you not say what I just said?
You can't, you can't talk,
yeah.
you
to him.
can't talk to him.
and.
I
Disabled-
recommend that we say that it's required that they provide the escrow account, but not say anything about how they do it. Or at
we
all,
even ask
define
for
what
them
that
to-
value has to be.
What's that?
I don't think we should define what the value has to be or how they go about doing it, but that it gets done.
Pardon me?
Put in a requirement in condition 20, just to say that the Hamilton Wenham School District shall create an interest-bearing escrow account to cover the cost of the disposal of this field at the end of its life.
I think that's fine.
And leave
I
it
think
at that.
I think that's fine.
Again, there's no way to come up with a number. The number
Well,
could
they don't need to come out,
That's what I'm saying.
they will, but it will evolve,
with
it
you.
will evolve, it will evolve.
agreeing with you.
It will evolve, and that's the way to get it to evolve, sure.
It could be zero, there's a great way to recycle it, or it could be $20 million encapsulated in a mountain in Utah, like radioactive material. It could be anywhere in between that spectrum.
Do we have the authority?
We have no authority to do that, so,
We don't
so.
have the authority to ask the school committee.
For a dollar amount. I just think the dollar amount
We-
is not reasonable.
Do we have
recommend-
do we have the authority to ask them to
We can recommend,
No.
I
we
think we
can recommend
recommend the
it.
setting up of an escrow account to cover the
You don't,
cost of
you do
disposal
not have the authority.
of the turf.
They
We
will
recom-
invoke the Dover Amendment on this.
No, it's not a Dover Amendment thing. Look, if someone stands up at town
they will.
meeting and agrees to
But
an
that
escrow.
doesn't mean that we have the authority to enforce it, that would be school committee's authority, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm just trying to like stay
All
in my
right.
lane, I don't know.
If
I
it
just-
wasn't, look, if it wasn't for the fact that.
I'm not saying it's
that
not a good
Eric-
idea,
That
yes,
Eric
we should
Tracy
budget.
opened his mouth in town meeting and said, oh, yeah, we'll be happy to do all of this. Marnie wouldn't have a case, we would just take all of this and throw it in the trash, because the attorney would be right. But in fact, he agreed to it. He agreed to something that sounds very, very much like this.
committee has to
Now,
agree
he
to
didn't agree to it in writing, he agreed to it in front of 600 people.
No, he did not agree to it in writing. It's not admissible in court. He
Well,
said
and I
it.
think it's the school committee.
It doesn't matter. It's not enforceable. and-
Okay, let's take a vote. Who wants to keep it in?
I'd like to keep it in as a recommendation for the Hamilton Wenham School District set up an escrow account.
I like the recommendation.
Yeah, I'll do the recommendation.
I would,
Cover the cost of disposal of the turf field and its materials at the end of its life.
Jonathan?
I would support a recommendation.
Yes,
I would support a recommendation.
I support it too.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I'd recommend it.
All right.
Okay.
Now, the first part of it, I would suggest, Pat, that whatever your problems are, they're relatively inconsequential at 9:25, unless you absolutely want something taken out. I would suggest that most of it is just a recitation of what happened during our public hearings.
You're going to have to circulate a draft of that. We can't vote on it as it is.
We can't vote on this tonight.
Fine, we can't.
Really?
You're going to have to circulate a draft.
I think I'm comfortable that we've
No.
come to an.
I know, but everybody
I'm not.
jotted down their own notes. You're going to have to circulate a draft. I mean,
Many changes.
There are too many changes. Believe me, I couldn't follow most of them. And basically, what I have determined now is that I'll give you another draft at our next meeting, and you'll nitpick that to death, and then we'll have to do another iteration,
I don't
because,
think we'll nitpick it.
I don't know, I mean, I guess, I would be- so
I believe that another draft will be close enough so that at the next meeting,
You can
we
approve it.
we can make some little edits, and then we'll vote on it, okay?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
I
works.
think we're very, very, very.
Yep.
But I just want, in the fact that we're very, very, very close, and we have consensus on every single condition that's been written here, although we haven't seen the language representing what it is yet, we all have in our mind what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, but
I'm
there's been a lot of
comfortable saying-
there's been a lot of
Based-
reordering and, putting this part over here. and
We
this part
voted
over
on all these conditions, and we agreed to keep them
No, I think
in theory,
you
and I would like.
need to see it in its final form.
The only thing I'm going to say is,
I don't need to find it.
anybody who wants to change anything in this, in the front part, write it up and send it to Marnie.
really, I mean, and if you have
Honestly, otherwise,
language,
forget it.
send it
Don't
to
bring-
me.
Don't bring it up at the next meeting.
Okay, I like that.
Everybody's had plenty of time
I
to
can
look at
agree to
this.
that, because I won't be here.
It's like, woo!
Are you leaving?
When is the next meeting?
It's in 3 weeks.
I'll
not a
I'll
problem.
submit them.
Wait another
bef-
3
Don't
weeks?
worry.
Do you have
2
the-
weeks. It's-
30th.
I'll submit them.
3.
No, it was originally gonna be 3, but then we moved this one, so it's,
It's,
It was originally going to be 4, and then we moved this from the 2nd to the 9th.
I don't think it's fair to kick this 3 weeks down the road.
Well,
I thought it was the 23rd, no?
I mean, I can sense Marnie's frustration. I mean, all of us, including me, have had this and kicked it around a little bit between us.
We need to have a discussion. You can only do so much in a vacuum, but editing a document, you need to have a conversation.
Right.
But what you want to do is your homework outside of a meeting.
I
You want
did
to
the
get it,
homework.
Okay,
you want
so
to
what
write
would
the
you-
thing
what
out
would
with
you
the-
opinion?
and
Emil,
submit
what
it
would you
through
recommend? What would
I'm
you
telling you,
recommend?
you write it down on a piece of paper, you submit it to Patrick so that everybody can look at it. So when you walk into a meeting, it's not, oh, I disagree with number.
Well, I'm not used to also one person drafting a whole decision. I know
Well,
we've
you
had
know,
input on
okay,
it.
put it this way. What other person in this room would have done it?
Yeah.
You raise your hand. You
We are
raise your
all
hand
very,
if you
very
would have done
indebted
it.
to
Is
Marnie.
that there's a lot of emotion in the room because a lot of
come on.
effort was being put towards it, and that's, I acknowledge that effort, but allow for the discussion to happen. You can't. do it at
Patrick,
this-
can we move the 30th to the 23rd?
Make a decision.
Is there some conflict with that?
Yes.
to speed this up at least a week?
I'm bequeathing that.
We probably can.
I don't know.
Should we
Depends on
consider that?
individual
Should we consider
schedules.
that?
I love the
Yeah,
idea.
because the next meeting is a week after that.
Is the what?
You don't.
We have two meetings in 2 weeks next time, the 30th and the 7th.
It's 30th and the 7th of, oh, so
Our next meeting
moving
is
it
the
back to the
30th.
23rd would space it more evenly?
Space
I cannot.
All
do
right,
the
I make a motion that we-
No, excuse me, I cannot do the 23rd. The 23rd is Passover. So you could do it on
25?
the 25th,
Oh, so it's the 30th.
which isn't that much of a increase. I don't know about,
We're talking about having can we just do a Zoom meeting and just talk, like not even have an in-person meeting?
no, I
I
wouldn't.
don't think we're allowed to anymore.
Oh,
No, you can't. The legislature hasn't approved it yet.
okay. I was just thinking if we're just voting on that and we're done, it's like,
Nice try, though, Beth.
thanks, I'm working it over here, but no luck.
We could conceivably do the 16th, but I cannot do the 23rd.
I could do the 16th.
I'm available the 16th.
I'm available the 16th,
Yeah.
too.
This be in lieu of the 30th then, so the 30th goes to the 16th?
You're gonna have a busy day that day, Emil.
No, it's the 17th. We're gonna
17th
meet,
is tax day.
That's right.
so,
What's the
We get,
17th?
Just
the
finished my
17th is
taxes, that's why I'm in
our
a bad
tax
mood.
day, Massachusetts.
Oh, that's right, okay. I didn't realize it was the 17th. My birthday.
Patrick, how does the 16th look?
I don't know other boards and committees' schedules right now, but we typically meet on the third Tuesday, so I think it's worth shooting for.
All right, that would be the third
And if not, can
Tuesday.
we do it at the library? It was.
This room is not gonna be worked on until like the 25th and 26th, so
Okay.
the 16th
We
should be
able to
still
here.
fine.
Okay.
Okay, Marnie, is that enough time for you to do the rework? Marnie, can you get us the draft by the 16th?
I will try.
what is the notice time on that?
48 hours. Right, Patrick, we need 48-hour notice,
Right.
so we'd have to notice it out by Friday?
So we'd have to try to get the information out, what, 15th to the board?
Geez,
That's pretty tight.
that's
Well, we
really,
can we don't have to have the information out, we just have to post the agenda.
We just have to
Well, that's-
propose the
On that
agenda.
Friday.
She can work
For
on
that
it all.
Friday, whatever the Friday is, this Friday.
yeah, but see, that's putting, an
Yeah.
enormous pressure on me to have something to you by the 15th.
Right, that's the problem.
Can't we just vote on
I just,
the conditions as set forth during this hearing?
that's,
The understanding that there will be
you're not
Okay, so how
getting
about
support on that.
The 19th then? Do we do the 19th, which is a Thursday?
18th.
19th is a Friday.
Oh, 18th, sorry, yeah, definitely not Friday.
I can certainly do the 18th.
That just gives a couple extra days and.
That's all right with me.
I could do the 18th.
I can do the 18th.
Me too.
That is if I'm voted back in.
Yeah, when's the vote?
Can I just say who has the best?
This is my last day, so just like Rick's last day.
I was just saying to Jonathan, who has the best signs? Sorry, I'm a little partial, but his signs actually look
Okay.
like a planning board
You have
sign.
And if we do,
It has
if,
like a little tree, it's very nicely designed.
So 18th.
if we do the 18th, that will help the school understand that we're bending over backwards to speed this up. As
The
opposed to,
18th.
the 18th, as opposed to the 23rd or the
Okay,
30th
third.
or whatever.
No,
Okay.
let's do the
okay.
18th.
Okay?
If
That
this
work?
room is spoken for on the 18th,
Yeah.
we can still do this via Zoom.
Did you?
Because it's not a public hearing?
Didn't,
Well,
I thought meetings,
so many of our committees are still doing Zoom.
Oh, really?
That's right, that's right.
okay,
It's-
okay.
It's not a
I know, I got you. We don't have to.
So,
you have to.
I thought I was right.
to the extent this is difficult because of the
They- more of
public meeting. So I do not have, I don't think that, okay. I can take out the whole business of the April 1st town meeting, take that out. But well, the timeline is important, but anyhow, next paragraph, that can come out. We do need information from you, Patrick, about when this stuff appeared in the Salem Daily News,
The dates.
the dates. And the rest of that information, I think, should stay in. And then,
You want the dates for the news?
yeah, Salem Days,
Yeah.
November the 30th,
okay, hold on,
2023.
wait. Let me get,
Some page.
so it was published on November 30th?
November 30th of 23, and also December 7th of 23.
And it was posted on the website,
I'll need to find that for you.
and notice mailed to abutters.
October the 24th.
Well, there were two notices.
Yeah, I'll check to that separate one.
Can we eliminate the footnote related to defying reason and common sense to submit voluminous materials to the planning board and suggest the planning board they ignore what has been submitted?
I'm sorry, where are you?
Page 4, footnote 1.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Jen?
Page 4, footnote 1.
I'm just gonna take some stuff out.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. All right, are we done with this?
I think so.
Too bad, Rick, you didn't get a last hurrah on a vote.
You got to swear tonight, so that was good.
Hey,
That'll go down in history.
What is the,
yeah, make
What
sure
is
that
that?
gets
Is
into the
it middle-
meeting
is it-
minutes.
is it Middleton?
I will.
Oh, we gotta laugh. Oh, my word. Are we gonna look at minutes, or are we gonna,
We're going to the next
The video
item
of
on,
that one here was like,
well,
where the applicant recommended the board, the chairperson of the board, go get an ice cream or something. And the chairperson responded back with some language that was similar to Rick's. That made the news.
oh, fascinating.
We could be
Oh,
on the news.
what are we doing on the A and R that didn't show up? Is that
Nothing.
just getting put for
They'll
the next
come back.
meeting?
They'll come back, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
just,
I just wanna make sure I was clear on what was happening there.
Nothing.
The one that you
I
did
just
vote
thought
on,
it was.
we need signatures.
okay. Could we just have, we need a motion to continue our deliberations, so,
Motion made to continue our deliberations to the 18th of April.
at 7 PM.
17th.
17th,
No, 18.
18.
it's 18th,
That's Thursday,
yeah.
17th.
Thursday.
Oh,
Absolutely
okay.
not.
Oh, happy birthday.
Second.
29 again?
Pat Norton,
I'll be in Hawaii for school week vacation, but.
can still
I'll
come in
try
by Zoom.
I'll try to make the Zoom
From the beach.
from the beach.
on the 18th?
Yeah, next week is school week break, but if no one can do that, that's fine. Thursday works. It's all right.
Yeah, because it'll be a short it should be a short meeting.
Yeah.
So you didn't say aye, I don't think.
Oh, aye.
There you go.
Jonathan
Jonathan Porter, aye.
Bill Wheaton,
Bill Wheaton, aye.
Emil Dahlquist,
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Beth Her,
Aye.
Rick Mitchell,
Aye.
and Marnie Crouch, aye. So, Emil and Rick, a little update on what happened with respect to the RFQ and where we stand on the comprehensive plan for the town center.
Rick, you want to talk about the
No, I think you should.
town meeting? I didn't go. So,
Town meeting.
Town
Town
meeting
meeting.
Oh,
passed,
it passed.
passed the $125,000 by a very wide margin. Now you want to talk about what's happening next?
Right. The selection committee composed of Rick, representing HTC, Patrick, Tim Olson, myself, and Joe, of course, got together, and we had a meeting this afternoon, actually, and
We got 4 proposals.
to review the respondents to the RFQ, and there were 4. So we got the packets, and we each had a day or two to look at it. And the idea was to kind of discuss them in a general way. And we discovered we all pretty much agreed on number 1 and number 2, and that it would be advantageous to have interviews with the top 2 firms. So Patrick is in the process, I guess, of contacting, got 1 response, I guess, Patrick, and waiting for the second. I don't know if it's public information yet, to announce who they are, but at the next meeting, certainly, we can give you more detail about who's been selected.
Yeah, I think you have to hold on to that until we,
We're gonna meet for the interviews next week on Wednesday, is it? And then,
Yeah.
whatever, and then make a decision after the meeting who the final choice is, and that person will be notified. So we're pretty close now to getting going,
And-
to start in April, and the goal is to complete everything, including the code, a year from now, on April
have
2025.
it ready for town meeting.
Ready for town meeting in 1 year.
Got 4 proposals, 3 of them very strong,
Yeah.
all of them really good.
Yeah, well, it was a wide choice, and, but we kind of analyzed what the particular tasks are that we're going to be looking for, and who is most well-positioned to deliver on those. So they're really excellent. A couple of them were just terrific. I've not seen any better, actually.
Tons of experience.
Yeah, yeah, so it looks promising, and they all pretty much agree with our scope of services, when following that pretty closely, so, yeah, it looks good, and,
How about the budget? They agree with the scope and the budget?
yeah, I didn't hear anything, did you hear anything about that?
No, well, you had, 3 people show up to the bidders meeting?
We had actually 4.
4.
One person did not submit, but that person was a consultant, I think, out scouting for somebody else. But we had 3, we had an introductory meeting here on the 18th. So we had an in-person, and Joe and myself and Patrick had a chance to answer a couple of questions and go through that, so that was productive. And that's about it.
Well, I think Patrick sent around some information about 3A. I was thinking that it would be a good idea if we put that up on our planning board webpage.
Yeah, okay.
There was a part about myths and reality, which I thought was really informative. It was a little dated, but I mean, at least
Yeah.
it will apprise people that, no, we do not have to build 731 units. We
Yeah,
just have-
I found it, who, was that
I
from
was working with-
Patrick? Did you write this summary?
No, I did.
You did? It was really helpful. And I was surprised to find, too, that you have a half-mile radius, but only a reasonable amount of land within that radius has to be set aside for 15 units per acre.
Well, the
development.
district has to be of reasonable size. So the only addition to that document that I made was to put what the guidelines require of Hamilton, and that's 49 acres and 731 units. And I included the information for Wenham
Who
as
came
well.
up with that?
Those are the guidelines, and Bowler came up with that, I believe.
Actually, that was calculated by the state.
The state, yes. So if you look at the
Well, 49 acres would be, if my math is correct, just about the entire half circle of 5 mile radius.
Oh, no way,
No,
no way.
that's
A
250.
square mile is 640 acres.
Yeah, but half of a pi r squared half mile, how many?
Actually, the area of a circle, pi r square, if you go through it, it's 500 acres, 502. Divide that in half, because the Wenham line cuts it in half.
Right.
So we're about 250 acres within that.
As
half
opposed to
mile.
50,
So
okay.
about 20% of,
There's 50 in the downtown district, so 250 in the entire half mile within Hamilton.
Well, anyhow, here are the guidelines, and Patrick's right. They have every town, every
Okay,
MBTA
okay.
community.
So somebody at the state office calculated that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So I think that'd be helpful to have that up on our webpage, just for people if they're browsing
But
around.
those are guidelines.
Well, that's,
If we think that's reasonable,
well,
is
the
the term?
law says a reasonable, a zone of reasonable size, which is different than what the guidelines say.
the guidelines are almost, they're problematic in my view, because
Right,
it says a district of reasonable size within an
Half
area around a half mile of an MBTA station. But the guidelines extrapolate from that and provide that, oh no, you just need to do 20% by the MBTA station, and then you can have the remainder somewhere else. Well, that's a guideline. That's
not even
completely
in the statute.
opposite
Yeah.
of what's in the statute.
Correct.
So this is what the town of Milton will hang its hat on, and how far that it gets is anyone's guess. I have no real sense of that, but it may, and the guidelines were authorized by the statute, so you would presume that the legislature knew what it intended to do, and it could have advised the Commonwealth to formulate regulations.
Right, I
So
think
did
that-
Milton say we're not having any part of this? Or did Milton say we're not accepting the guidelines from the state?
Well, I think that Milton basically suggested that the guidelines were an overreach. One of their principal arguments, though, is we're not really an MBTA community because we have a trolley.
Well, they got lumped in with the rapid transit, so they had an early
Yeah.
deadline. And it went to their town meeting, which is a representative town meeting, and it was voted for the guidelines. And then somebody did some kind of whatever, citizen petition, and they ended up with a vote of the citizens saying they don't want it. So I'm not sure how you can have people vote no for something and then.
So but the point is, if we, well, you probably don't know the answer to this, if we put a proposal before the town which had, for want of better words, 100 units at 15 or more on pieces of land that were actually available, some feasible proposal to do it, and we submit that to the state, what's the state going to say?
Well, no, we have to comply, I think, somehow, some way. Yeah, we have to zone within a half-mile radius at 15 units per acre. We don't really have to say how many units, anything like that.
In total, we'll say we zone this, and
You
this.
comply with the statute.
Yeah, you just zoned, it allows it to happen, doesn't mean it will happen, and your infrastructure and septic and water are all, constraints to make that happen.
Right.
So,
But that would be the minimum requirement. You wouldn't have to, in your zoning, make any reference to
number of years.
land area or number of units.
They could do the math. I mean, if you wind up doing 40 acres, they'll just multiply it by 15.
You get 600 units, right, all right.
But
But anyhow, that's really for another day, and maybe in October, we'll get clarity from the SJC. Who knows?
Right, and they're actually asking people to submit, I've been paying attention, they're asking people to submit, and particularly Attorney Walsh, who's the one representing the Rockport case. They want people to submit information to the court on why this should be able to be,
Whatever the town wants, they would like some justification for that.
well, the court is asking for people to submit
They
information,
want-
not just from Milton, but
They
just
want
a big-
amicus briefs.
Thank
They-
you.
They want
That's why,
amicus.
that's what, thank you.
You're welcome.
We needed the attorney to interpret what I was saying.
They want amicus briefs. So
Yes.
it's,
I'm not giving them my underwear.
so anyhow, anybody object to having that information posted on our webpage?
That's a great idea.
Rick's underwear?
Yeah.
I think the only issue is that that information is ever evolving.
Oh, of course, but
So,
it,
I mean, we can put it up there and we can then just, maybe just with a caveat, like check back and check.
I mean, but I prefer that the town, my own view would be the town doesn't want to mimic what Milton did. So if we put,
Not.
if we have a proposal that has 500 or 600 or 700
Completely
units,
different.
the town is just going to shoot it down, and then we'll be exactly doing what Milton did.
No, that's not gonna happen, Bill. We're gonna be talking to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities throughout the process. That's part of, one of the proposers actually said that's what they're doing already and offered that service. So the whole point is to go to them and say, we are in the process of adopting zoning that will enable the town to actually make this happen. We won't meet the deadline, but too bad.
well, there's a,
So-
Well, that will enable the town to build 700 units.
No, the town doesn't have to build anything.
700 units. We will never build 700 units.
there's no space for
But, yeah,
700
But I
units.
think, I would rather not zone for something that we won't ever build, because then somebody might try to build it. That's just my personal.
Well, that's exactly right, but you can't fight the state on this.
That defies what the state's asking us to do.
Right.
Yeah,
That's sticking your head in the sand and saying, well, I don't want that to happen. Well,
Well, it does, I mean, it's not up to us anyways, because it's up to the voters of the town.
we have to comply
not
with the
really.
state.
they could say
With the
no, but then you're gonna
state
end up in
statute.
Milton's land.
No, I get that, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think the legislature is going to repeal Section 3A. How the guidelines play into that or not is anybody's guess. But I don't see the legislature repealing Section 3A. How it's interpreted
Right.
could be different, because there are other interests that were unrecognized in the guidelines, and that is, we're on scenic 1A. I mean, and the one thing that the Commonwealth should recognize is the historic nature of the towns along Route 1A. I mean, what from Wenham to Newburyport, you have some really scenic areas, and you don't want them to be adversely impacted, because tourism is a large part of the
Well, and I
economy
hadn't
here.
even thought about until tonight that half of our half-mile distance is Wenham. So like, I know Manchester's the
1,000
same, theirs
units.
is, half of their circle's in the water. So half of our circle around the train station isn't even in our town.
Yeah, but it's 1,000 units between Wenham and.
I know.
and,
And if it was one town, it would be 750, so.
So we're just gonna build a 20-story tower and we'll be done.
Call it a wrap.
Right.
Yeah,
To Ferncroft.
Right.
right.
Can we move on?
Yes. Minutes, I believe that they're in good shape. I could entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I shall move.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of, we're going to do this collectively, December 5th, 2023, and November 21st, 2023, and I got two November 21st, 2003. Good? Yes, it's just the two.
Mm-hmm.
On the agenda, it also has, December 19th.
3. Yeah, there's 3.
My thing
December
has,
19th,
my thing has two 21st.
right. But there's,
I lost mine.
so the minutes are from December 19th, December 5th,
Oh, you're right,
And December 19th.
and November 21st.
21st,
Times
okay,
two.
they're in reverse order. Okay.
We just have,
So 3 sets of minutes.
Okay, so I made that motion.
Second.
Pat Norton,
At Norton, aye.
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, aye.
Bill Wheaton,
Bill Wheaton, aye?
Emil Dahlquist,
Emil Dahlquist, aye.
Beth Herr,
Aye.
Rick Mitchell,
Aye.
and Marnie Crouch, aye. And Rick, we'll miss you.
Well, the ghost of planning board past will be haunting you because of this whole
Yeah.
form-based code, so,
We'll see you, is that what you're saying?
huh?
We'll see you
Oh,
at our meetings?
you can run, but you can't hide.
You'll come visit us, I'm sure.
Motion to adjourn?
Wait, he's supposed to do it, it's the last meeting.
Oh, yeah. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Pat Norton,
Aye.
Jonathan Poor,
Jonathan Poor, aye.
Bill Wheaton,
Bill Wheaton, aye?
Emil Dahlquist,
Aye.
Beth Herr,
Aye.
Rick Mitchell,
Aye.
and Marnie Crouch, aye.